I'm not going to tell you that.
Offense, defense,
all of it. I mean, we won 3 games last year. We got to be super honest with where we're at, and we've got a lot of needs to address, and we've got a lot of capital to do it.
Accountable guys that obviously have produced on the field, coming from winning teams, guys that football is important to them. It's easy to say that, but when you talk to the people that have coached them, you've talked to their college teams, you've talked to their teammates. What is this guy like when things get hard? Because there's going to be adversity. It's not going to be perfect. So you want guys that can handle things the right way when it gets tough.
It's Unnecessary Roughness. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right. Here's your boy Q.
And that really goes for the head coach as well. That goes for the coaching staff as well. That goes for the organization. When times get tough, you got to be able to have guys that can handle it, guys that can deal with the adversity, right? We had Just Win Will hit us up late last week, as a matter of fact, and said, it's all good when everyone's 0-0, the vibes are high, everyone's feeling good about the direction of the team, but what happens when you lose a game? What happens when you lose a couple games? What happens when you get blown out and look embarrassed? Guys start looking at you sideways in the locker room. Guys start looking at coach like, well, does he really know what he's doing? Start questioning guys. How do the coaching staff and others deal with the adversity as we come in and we hear John Spytek, the GM, going all the way back to the scouting combine in Indianapolis, talking about the type of players that he wanted to add to the roster, and you heard Clint Kubiak talk about free agents, guys coming in from winning teams, and if you look at the roster, the way it was all put together, going all the way back to the free agency and the draft, it is guys that came from winning programs. It is guys that have had success wherever they were at, whether that was college or the National Football League, and that's all that they're putting together, putting in a big bowl of gumbo, trying to make sure that this comes out as a winning product, a good culture that they're trying to create. And obviously that gets started coming up at the end of the month when training camp gets rolling around. And, every single day I keep saying it's closer and closer to actual football. On matter of fact, on Monday, it was exactly 2 months away from the very first game of the NFL season. Now you're starting to see more updates. You're starting to see and hear people come back from vacation knowing that they're going to be primed and ready to go when it comes to training camp, and it's just what it is, right? And so this is going to be a lot of fun. We keep getting updates from the Raiders when it comes to procedures and what we're going to be doing once training camp opens up, and certain days that there will be no availability, days that there will be availability. I mentioned before credentials, who's going to be in all year long, who's going to get day-to-day. Like, every one of these small little minor steps that might sound like nothing is just another sign that it is actually right around the corner, and it's very exciting. It is Unnecessary Roughness here, RaiderNation Radio 920. My man Ari in the Lotus Broadcasting Studio. I'm here in Studio Q. Off top, I need to make a correction. I want to make sure we get this out, and we'll have to go ahead and knock this out a few times throughout the course of the show. The Summer of Fun is going on. We talk about it each and every day. We give you the word of the day. Normally, the morning tailgate gives it out in the morning, and then JT will continue to update it. And of course, I'll update it multiple times throughout the show as well. The word of the day was just given out before this show started, and it was given out incorrectly. River was yesterday's word. So I just want to make sure, because I've seen a lot of people text in River. I've seen a couple people text in. Yesterday was River. So I know there was a lot of excitement with the way that the World Cup was getting wrapped up between Argentina and England. So I guess words got crossed over or whatever the case may be. But River is not the word. That was the word for yesterday. Cabin is the word for today. Cabin. You have till 5 o'clock. Text the word cabin, right? It's going to get you in to win the Mississippi River trip and everything that comes with it. It's going to get you in to win the trip or the cash. $3,000 is the cash. It's brought to you by Terribles. We do appreciate them for sponsoring it and making it possible that we can even make this happen. But I want to make sure off top that we correct what we did wrong. So the wrong word was given out. There's no excuse for that, but I'm going to go ahead and make sure we clean it up off top. Cabin is the word. Text cabin to 702-365-9200. And if you missed that, don't worry. Ari will remind you about it throughout the course of the show. We just got to get that word in before 5 o'clock. Coming up on the show today, we have some really good guests lined up, as we always do, including Paul Gutierrez from Raiders.com. We'll talk to him about a variety of subjects when it comes to the silver and black, but all focused in on what's going to be happening at the end of the month, which is the start of training camp. And, we spent some time on yesterday talking about the way that this team just feels and the way that this offseason's gone, everything has felt correct. And, we've had that feeling before. Why is it different this time around? So we'll talk to Paul about that. We'll also talk to him about the subject that we have lined up for the show today. But it's always great to catch up with Paul G. We'll do that coming up at 2:30. Our good friend Ari Meirov from the 33rd-team.com will join us coming up at 3 o'clock. We'll scatter shoot all things NFL. And really one area that I want to go with with our conversation with Ari is about the new play callers across the National Football League. We always talk about the new head coaches, and obviously we're focusing on new head coach and Clint Kubiak. But if you look around the division alone, there's new play callers everywhere, right outside of Kansas City. And, of course, Big Red's going to continue to be the guy there as the Chiefs, play caller. But, you look at who they have now in Denver, Davis Webb. Remember, he was the guy that was in the running for the Raiders head coaching job. Mike McDaniel, he's in L.A. with the Chargers. He's a former head coach, but I think a sharp OC. What's he going to do for the Chargers? Then you look at Clint Kubiak. He's the play caller for the Raiders, even though he's the head coach. Look, 21 new play callers across the league, 21 of them. So I really want to deep dive with Ari into that. And I know that he's done some features on his NFL Spotlight as well that highlight some of the young play callers across the league. So we'll have that kind of conversation with Ari coming up at 3 o'clock. And then at 3:30, Mike Debate, writer for New England Patriots on SI. He'll join us as we talked to Ross Jackson yesterday, all things Saints when it comes to strengths, the weakness, and the X factor for the team a couple of weeks out of the start of training camp. So the Patriots are another team that is not in the Raiders division, obviously another team that the Raiders have on the schedule this year. So we just want to get a little bit of a preview of who they are at this stage of the game, again, before training camp gets going, just to get the expectations. Obviously, there's been a lot of chatter and conversation around the New England Patriots on and off the field this offseason. So we'll get Mike's thoughts coming up at 3:30. We'll hear from you throughout the course of the show as well, 702-365-9200. And, again, if you are just tuning in and don't know what the final outcome of England versus Argentina in the World Cup semifinal, Argentina got it done late. They did what they always do, right? They find a way to come from behind. They don't have to be playing their best soccer, but they find a way to get it done. Messi is incredible. He's still that guy and was a huge factor in their 2-1 come from behind victory. So big-time moment right there, and they move on, and they'll be in the World Cup final going up against Spain. So there's that. That's the update when it comes to the World Cup, and it has been, I think, a really, really fun tournament start to finish. And I'm not a guy that's a soccer head, but it's been good to check in and just watch to see how it all plays out. So big show lined up for you. Paul Gutierrez at 2:30, Ari Meirov, 33rd-team.com at 3, and Mike Debate, writer for New England Patriots on SI, coming up at 3:30. Before we jump into the opening drive, we do got to hear from our guy E-Rob. Yesterday was important, tomorrow's important, but today is as well. And why is that?
Because every day matters. The older you get, the more you start appreciating day in and day out, because I can't get that time back. I'm in the business of saying, not if I would have did this or if I would have did that. I'm in the business of now.
I'm in the business of now as well. So right now, let's go ahead and jump into the opening drive.
The opening drive of Unnecessary Roughness on RaiderNation Radio 920 AM is brought to you by Paul Patta Law. It's not about the injury, it's about the recovery.
So last night I was sitting here where I am right now, Studio Q, going over some things and checking out some stuff online and reading some, getting caught up on some reading when it comes to the National Football League and listening to some sounds. And I stumbled upon Max Crosby's podcast, the Rush podcast, and you know that he had a lot of different, players in town. Him, Von Miller, Cam Jordan had a lot of players in town for the SAC Summit. We talked in great detail about the SAC Summit and just how that's grown over the years. But he sat down and did his podcast, and Von Miller was a guest on the podcast, and so they got into Von Miller and where he's playing, because remember, he is a free agent. So this is what popped up on the podcast about Von Miller in year 16.
I would love to be on a team that has a great quarterback, great pass rush system already in place. Raiders are Raiders.
Cal Mendoza.
And just I'm not mad at it. Because I need 3. When you get to year 16, and you start looking at lists, and I need 3 sacks. 3.5 sacks would really separate me. But if you get on a team like I know the Raiders will be, or the Broncos, or the Commanders, or the Bills, I can really roll into what I've been doing my whole life.
So that was Von Miller right there, and currently he's at 138.5 career sacks. So nothing to shake a stick at, right? He's a guy that's going to go into the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt about that. And so you hear him hint at the Raiders, and I'm not saying, and I'm not even asking if you want the Raiders to go sign Von Miller as a free agent. That's not the reason for the season. That's not the reason I even brought that sound to the table. But when I heard that, and I say all the time that things happen organically, this conversation came to mind because, look, we talk about big-time players all the time, right? We talk about guys that are huge difference makers when we talk about free agency, like a Quay Walker, a Nakobe Dean, guys with big names that you think is going to go in and be some huge difference maker. But in the kind of the thoughts of a Von Miller, a guy who, wherever he signs, whether that's with the Broncos, with the Rams, with whatever team ends up signing him, and someone's going to sign him to play in year 16, I definitely believe that he has a role in this league, which is probably a third down specialist. Right, a guy that can pin his ears back on third and long and get after the quarterback. He's at that stage of the game, and we all know that he's got the tools to be able to get it done. It made me think, is there any veteran player or players out there that you think the Raiders could land at a reasonable price to help with depth on either side of the ball? Not guys, like I said, not guys that you think are going to be stars, but somebody who's out there. Like I know right now, Money Mitch is like, yes, Joey Bosa. No, not him, right? I don't even think he has anything left in the tank. But anyone that you feel like, okay, they still have a little something to provide. They're not going to be someone that's going to be relied on heavily. They're not going to be that guy that's going to go lead that position group in whatever the case may be, whoever it is that you've got on your mind, but someone that can add some depth, someone that can be a veteran and come in and provide, have that one skill set, just one thing that you have to do. Whether it's a guy, and I know some people have thrown out a name like Keenan Allen, and again, not saying that that's a guy that they should go and make a move for. I know wide receiver is a conversation we have a lot. But what was Keenan Allen for the Chargers last year? He was that guy that was like a third down specialist, right? He'd get in there on third down. Justin Herbert would look for him, catch the ball, first down, get off the field. Okay, boom, keep it moving. And how many times have we seen edge rushers? And again, this goes back to Von Miller saying what he said. How many times have we seen edge rushers later in their career where that's exactly what their role is? Right, second and long, third and long. Hey, let's get this guy in the game real quick to try to get after the quarterback. Some edge rushers have really extended their career by having that skill set. And again, I'm not suggesting that it's Von Miller or I'm not suggesting it's Keenan Allen. I'm just throwing it out there and opening it up to you. If there's a veteran off the top of your head, off the top of your mind that you think would make sense for the Raiders, I don't want anyone that is going to get in the way of the growth of someone. Right? Like, I don't want a wide receiver that's going to be in the game so much that Jack Bech isn't going to get his burn. I don't want a wide receiver in the game that's going to be there so much that Dante Thornton's not going to get their burn. Now, there is something to be said about a guy who could play maybe a third down role. Extend a drive. Who doesn't want to retain the ball, retain possession of the ball? Maybe there's something to it. Maybe that's where your mind is going. Someone who's, going to have a handful of catches, be that veteran presence, but not get in the way. I use this example all the time from last year, and, I have nothing against Tyler Lockett. I have all the respect in the world for Tyler Lockett, but at some point he was in the way. He was in the way for the growth of a Jack Bech. He was in the way of a growth of any of the young players when you knew that, all right, look, this is a 3-4 win team max, right? And these young dudes need to get as much action into in as possible. But yet he's out there because he's a guy that's a security blanket, and he's a guy that's familiar with Geno Smith. They were still at this stage of the game trying to settle Geno down. I'm not looking for that. I'm not looking for a pacifier. I'm not looking for someone that's going to, calm the waters down when, the quarterback's not having the day he's supposed to have. I'm not talking about that. Just talking about a guy that could play a role, a very specific role that you think makes sense. And these guys normally come at a very reasonable price, especially when you're looking at July 15th or even August 3rd. Or, you know what I mean? Once training camp opens up and you see some guys that are still out there, but they want to get some burn in and they just haven't signed with the team yet. And, the thing about it is one of these guys, two of these guys could easily pop up on the Raiders roster. They might even wait a couple weeks into training camp. They might see how the vibe of training camp is to start off with. They might get through the first preseason game against the Cardinals and then decide, okay, after what we saw, we do think we need a veteran here to add a little something, right? If nothing else, to be a guy in case of emergency break glass, whatever the case may be, however they see fit. But the key is it's not someone who's going to break the bank and think that they still are in a stage where they get a ton of money. Like, I couldn't even tell you how much a Von Miller would even command. What, $6-7 million at this stage of the game? Like, I don't know. I don't even know what would be reasonable for Von Miller in year 16. I do know what other teams have used him for. I see him probably going to a team that he believes is a Von Miller away from being able to, be that championship team. Like, he could put them over the hump. That's kind of how I envision a guy like him at this stage of the game. If the Raiders were that guy away, then maybe they would go and make a push for him. They probably won't. But again, if the price is right, it might not be a bad pickup. I mean, the one thing he knows how to do is get to the quarterback, right? That's been proven 138.5 times throughout the course of his career, right? So, I mean, he could do that. And as we all know, you can never have too many guys that get to the quarterback as part of a rotation. Maybe there's a, defensive tackle. I know Danico Autry is still out there, right? Old friend of the Raiders, Danico Autry. He's still out there and available. I don't know what his health and his condition is like at this stage of the game. He was always the guy that I hated that the Raiders let him go back in the day. Because I felt like whenever he left the Raiders, he had success every team that he played for. Every single one of them. So maybe he's a guy that Robbie Leonard looks at and says, hey, that could be a addition along that defensive line, part of the rotation. Again, not the guy that's going to make that the greatest unit ever, just a guy who could be part of it. Because that's how you build a team. Yeah, you build it with the big names. You build it with the guys that are going to lead your team and, getting to the quarterback like Max. I'm looking at anywhere from 13 to 15 sacks for him this season as long as he's healthy. Throughout the course of the year, he'll be right around there, right? He'll be the big impactful player. But there's other guys that are going to step up, and there's other guys that are going to help out in that rotation, whether it's on the edge or the defensive interior. And the way that Robbie Leonard has set up this defense, I believe you're really going to have to get a big push from the interior. I believe that that's where a lot of the butter is going to be bred, is by what happens in the interior. The edge rushers are always going to be important. But if they can make more quarterbacks than not uncomfortable in the pocket because they're not allowed to step up, that's going to make life easier on a Max. That's going to make life easier on a Kuntz. That's going to make life easier on a Crawford, right? On a Kwity Paye, whoever's coming. Whoever it is screaming off the edge, even a Nakobe Dean trying to get to the quarterback from the linebacker position. That makes all their lives easier as long as you have that dude in the middle. You have that guy or guys in the middle that can get that push, all of a sudden, life is easier for everybody. Because now, and let's use Patrick Mahomes as a perfect example. He loves to step up in the middle of the pocket. Loves to. I'm interested to see what he's actually going to look like this year, especially early on. Remember, the Raiders play him in Week 4. What is he going to look like coming back from that ACL? Is he going to be comfortable in between the ears, stepping up in the pocket? Is he going to be comfortable, with big dudes, 280-plus pound guys falling around his legs? I'm not going to ever be mistaken as some world-class athlete, but I'll tell you what, coming back from a torn ACL, I wasn't comfortable with that, and I played basketball. It was a different ball game, but, man, when it got a little hairy down low, I was like, let me get up out of here a little bit, right? Because it's between your ears. I say it all the time. When guys come back from lower leg injuries, knee injuries, even ankle injuries, a lot of times they're healthy year one, but it's that second year that it really takes for them to be comfortable and confident in between the ears. That's what I think the biggest issue with Malcolm Kuntz was. Going back to 2025, last season. Yeah, he was healthy, but how many times do we come on this show that we call Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920 and say, yeah, he just doesn't look like he's confident. He knows he's healthy, but he doesn't look like he's confident and believes that he's healthy. And I thought an encouraging sign for Malcolm Kuntz this offseason during OTAs and mandatory minicamp was the fact that I didn't see a sleeve on his leg. Never saw it. So to me, that indicates that he really, truly feels like he's comfortable. I'll tell you right now, just a personal, note, I never played basketball again without a knee brace on. Never. It was different levels of knee braces, right? They weren't the same, right? You graduate to a certain knee brace, but they always say once you start wearing braces, any kind of brace or some ankle wrap or whatever, your muscle's not as strong, and that area your leg's not going to be that strong. Man, I never ever played the game again without having knee braces on, just because I didn't trust it. As much as I knew that I was healthy, just didn't trust it. Give me a sleeve. At the very end of the day, at least give me a sleeve. that visual, sometimes that visual gives you all the confidence in the world. So now we'll see what, a guy like Malcolm Koonce could do back this year, a couple years removed from that torn ACL. And, man, I'm rooting for him. I think that he's had a hell of a journey. I know that he's a hell of a teammate. I know that everybody in that locker room loves him. A humble dude. And I know he wants to be the best as well. And so the Raiders clearly saw something in him as they gave him another 1-year contract extension. I do think that he's got his work cut out for him. I think training camp's going to be very challenging for him, but I think he's got the ability to get it done. He's just got to go make it happen. So we do want to hear from you at 702-365-9200. Is there a veteran or veterans out there that you think the Raiders could land at a reasonable price? Again, not trying to break the bank on anyone, that you think can help out with depth on either side of the ball. It could be someone on the offensive side. It could be someone on the defensive side. Whatever is on your mind, you let me know at 702-365-9200. Big Pete, Vegas Pete, said we need to add to the weakest part of our roster, so either tackle or wide receiver like Hill. He's a true X. Well, Tyreek Hill's not going to be added to the Raiders. I go over this quite a bit, but Tyreek Hill and everything that he's done, the history of Tyreek Hill going all the way back to college, that goes against everything that the Raiders stand for. So, Tyreek Hill's got plenty of speed. There's teams out there that will embrace him and appreciate him, like Kansas City. The Raiders aren't going to be one. Now, if you see a guy that, like I said, maybe a Keenan Allen, I had someone suggest to me the other day, DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know if D-Hop understands where he is at this stage of his career yet. I don't know if he understands he's not a 1 or a 2. He'd be like a third down specialist. I don't know if he understands that yet at this stage of the game, but those are the kind of guys that you don't hear about any kind of issues off the field, like a Keenan Allen or a DeAndre Hopkins. I could see if maybe a couple weeks into training camp, the Raiders aren't real 100% comfortable with, everyone that they have, and they think maybe they need a guy that can come in and extend a drive on third down, pick up 3rd and 8, find a way to get open and make themselves available for Kirk Cousins or Fernando Mendoza. I can see that. But Tyreek Hill won't be that guy. I feel very comfortable. And then tackle. There are some tackles that are out there and still available. I think that the competition is going to be pretty deep with that offensive line. That'll be one of the big storylines we talk about quite a bit coming up at the end of the month when training camp starts. The problem with that is, how do you really know what you have until the pads come on? And then the pads are limited during training camp as well. So you'll get a little bit of a taste test during preseason games, but who's going to be playing? Are you going to see Tyler Linderbaum out there playing in preseason game number 1? Probably not. Are you going to see Colton Miller out there playing in preseason game number 1? Probably not. So then, okay, maybe the dress rehearsal in game number 2, they get a couple drives. Maybe. Right? So that's always the big challenge, right? We always talk about the offensive line and them coming together as quickly as possible, but it just seems like it's so much more difficult with the way that practices are limited. I literally was going through the practices the other day. I'm looking at it, and it's like, okay, 1 practice, 2 practice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Literally 11 practices, and we talked about before their first preseason game. Then between their first preseason game and their second, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 practices. Right? Then in between their second preseason game and the preseason finale against the 49ers, 1, 2, 3, 4 practices. They have that 49er game, and then there's a practice on August 29th. Right? And then training camp's just about done. Preseason's just about done. It'll be the 53-man roster. Like, there wasn't very many practices that I just rattled off. What was that, 19 practices I just rattled off? That's not a whole lot. It's not a whole lot. So they got to get as much work in as possible with the coaching staff, with the players, and it's limited when it comes to the pads. And the pads are really what's going to matter. Barry in Baltimore hit us on the text line, said the player I'd love for the Raiders to get on the roster somehow would be Vita Vea. It would have to be a trade, or if he's a surprise cut, but more likely a trade. There is some contract stuff between him and Tampa Bay going on. I know he'd be a little bit more expensive price contract-wise than you're talking about, but I think he'd be a huge clog in the middle on the defensive line and help everybody else on the defense. I like that, but you're right. He's going to definitely be a lot more costly than what I'm thinking about, right? He's definitely going to cost a lot more than what I'm thinking about. But I do, to your point, Barry, I think, and this is why I was a big Caden McDonald fan this year and thought that he would have made sense, the big defensive tackle out of Ohio State. I know he's not a guy that gets to the quarterback very often, but, man, he's a tackling machine. So, to me, that made sense for what I believe Robbie Leonard's trying to do when it comes to that defensive line. But, you saw the direction that they went. They prioritized the secondary, whether it was cornerbacks or safety. They made sure of that, so they had a plan. going back to what we talked about on yesterday's show. So they obviously had a plan of attack of what they wanted to do. So I'm pretty sure that the interior of the defensive line, maybe a alpha wide receiver, a number one wide receiver, those will probably be priorities next offseason. You're not going to be able to do everything in one offseason. We all knew that going in. So I don't believe that they were able to do everything that they wanted to do. But they got some real good work in, as far as I'm concerned, with turning this roster over. Thanks so much for that text. I do appreciate you. Of course, Money Mitch hit us on the text line. Ari, you knew he was going to hit us. I do hope the Raiders do go the opposite of your Joey Bosa take, Shorty. And then he called me Shorty. So, hey, look, man. I just don't see it. I'm not trying to poo-poo on Joey Bosa because I know he's had a hell of a career. But, Doc, I just don't see him having anything left in the tank. I mean, when there's rumors of retirement, when there's already rumors that you're going to retire, that means that you're talking about retirement. Right? When there's days of if I come in here and it's like, my days are numbered, I don't know how much longer I want to do this, then I'm already thinking about bouncing. When I start taking random days off all the time, like just, I got to take this day, I got to take that day, I don't want to be consistently there. Like I saw Howard Stern is down to 1 day a week, you might as well be retired, dog. When you're not willing to put in the work anymore, the reason why you got into the business to begin with, you might as well retire. So as great as he is, and I will never say something bad about him, but being down to 1 day a week kind of tells me that he's on the he's past the back nine as far as I'm concerned. One more quick text that we'll get to my guy Paul Gutierrez from Raiders.com. East Uncle Raider said, "What up, Q? What you mean no Von Miller?" Yes, Von Miller. Imagine the season opener, Von and Max, boom, strip sack, game over. Raiders win. He ain't going to break the bank. Okay, cool. The reason I said no Von Miller, I just think that he's probably going to prioritize a team that he feels like he might be able to go win a championship with. That's the only reason. I think that he's a hell of a player. There's no doubt. Obviously, he's a former Bronco, so, some people are going to look at that and be like, no former Bronco. But, I mean, the dude's a hell of a player. I've had some great conversations with Von Miller, so I know he's a good dude for the most part. I mean, he's that guy. So I would have no problem with that. I just think his priorities will be to go to a team that he looks at as a contender, like you've seen him go to places like Buffalo. Even Washington, he thought, when the Commanders, they went to the NFC Championship game. Right, and so he thought, okay, they could take that next step. He didn't know that the team was going to be riddled with injuries. So I think that'll be his priority. But, hell, to your point, if it's all of a sudden August 3rd, August 4th, and he still doesn't have a team, the Raiders could hit him up and add more depth along that defensive line. Like I said before, you could never have too many pass rushers, that's for sure. But really good text, man. Do appreciate that. Keep that feedback coming at 702-365-9200. Hit up the text line. Is there a veteran or veterans out there that you think the Raiders could land at a reasonable price to help with depth on either side of the ball? Let us know your thoughts. Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com, joins us next. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
That was the opening drive of Unnecessary Roughness on RaiderNation Radio 920 AM. Brought to you by Paul Padala. It's not about the injury. It's about the recovery. Now back to Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right.
Got a little Santana action? We got a little Santana action going? I mean, I know I heard J-Rock on the way in talking about the sense of urgency in the coaching staff. That was from Upon Further Review a few weeks ago. But we got a little Santana. I'm always going to stop and pause whenever you hear Santana. It is Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920. He stays undefeated. He is Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com. He stays undefeated because he still has the best walk-up music in the game. And, Paul, welcome back to the show. I appreciate you. What was the reason for Santana, man? Which I ain't got no problem. We could do 3 hours of Santana, but what did you choose Santana for today?
Q, I got to tell you, number one, cabin. Or number two, river. Those are the 2 words, right? The words of the day that
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. How do we get the word of the day wrong? We had one job. That's all we had.
Yeah, no, I got you. But the word of the day for the walk-up song is, the name of that song is Waiting. And that's kind of where we are. We're in hurry up and wait mode for training camp to get going. And, we've the past, month plus, we've just been waiting on things to happen and for news to leak out and for topics to discuss. And, when we spoke last week, we were talking about storylines, and now we're looking at potential pieces that could add to the mix here. And it's, this is what happens when you are ... waiting. So that's what the music was about.
I love it, man. And, yeah, we have a bunch of different subjects that we're talking about, but you said it, potential pieces that could be added. And, just hearing Von Miller kind of got my head going and made me think about it. I'm not looking for anyone that's going to break the bank or be some big-time huge name that's going to all of a sudden take the Raiders from 6 wins to 12. But, I mean, is there a couple position groups that you might look at that think maybe a veteran could help out and, at least provide some good depth before training camp or even a few weeks into it?
Not if it's going to be somebody that's going to take a spotlight, because, and again, this is not a team that's one player away, in my opinion. And this is just me speaking. This is not Raiders speaking, right? This is me. This is not a team that's one player away. Now, Von Miller, how much does that cost? How does that affect the development of the rookies, the younger guys, of Malcolm Kuntz, of Kieran Crawford? Not if it's going to affect somebody's development, especially with this long-range plan that obviously is in place now. And that's why I think I finally figured out why this feels different. Last year with Pete Carroll felt different because you had a veteran in there who had won at every level and had pelts on the wall. That's why that felt different. This, AP felt different because he had the locker room and guys willing to run through a wall for him for at least for a little time anyways, until they didn't. But that's why that felt different. This feels different because there is a plan in place for not just this year, and not for just next year, but for the foreseeable future. So when you start looking at like ESPN had a story last month, Matt Bowen had like the best free agents that were still available. Tyler Decker, okay, offensive tackle, but how expensive is that going to be? Stephon Diggs, no thank you for the off the field stuff. Joey Bosa, as you said, no thank you. Deebo Samuel, no thank you. And you just keep going down the list until you get down to like Bobby Wagner. He's going to be 36. Mekhi Becton, Trevon Diggs, Jadeveon Clowney, and I know those are names, and you never want to kind of look at guys and say, no, thank you, we're good enough when you're not, but not at the cost of developing what you already have kind of put into place. And that's where my mind is right now with this team. And as Kubiak said early on in the process, he said, training camp will reveal all. So that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, it's funny. I mentioned Tyler Lockett, and when he was brought in last year, I thought he got in the way of Jack Bech. And so that's your point, is don't bring a guy in that's going to get in the way. Can he help? Sure. But if he gets in the way of development, that doesn't do the team any good for the long haul.
Exactly. And it's, it's almost, cutting off your nose to spite your face to try to get the guys in there that are, you're comfortable with and whatever. And at that point last year, it was obvious that team wasn't necessarily going anywhere but circling down. So he did. It kind of got in the way of these younger guys developing, a second-round draft pick at that. So why would you want to bring somebody in if it's going to hurt the team in the long run and not really pay off in the short run? And that's always the balancing act, right, that a GM has to play, that a coach has to play, that a position coach has to play, that an owner has to play when he's going to sign off on something or doesn't. And that's literally, we're sitting here and we're hurrying up to wait.
Yeah, we are waiting, and people are texting in on the text line now waiting. They're thinking that that's the word of the day. The word of the day is cabin.
I am waiting in my cabin by the river.
There you go. See, now that's how we tie it all together here, man. That's what we are.
Santana.
Exactly. While you're floating down the river, you're listening to Santana.
Mm-hmm.
That makes all the sense in the world. Again, Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com, is with us here. RaiderNation Radio 920. It's funny. I was talking about and you mentioned the plan as well. I was talking about the plan quite a bit yesterday. And it felt like there has been a plan from the minute that John Spytek took the podium and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is the direction we're going to go in. Him and Tom Brady are going to be in charge of football operations. Why does it seem like the plan has really gone pretty smooth this offseason without too many major bumps in the road, including the Max Crosby situation?
Yeah, I almost said I think, and I'm not going to say I think. My sense is this, Q. Not only is everybody on the same page, but they're all pulling in the same direction. That's why this feels different. They're all pulling in the same direction. When you had, and again, this is no disrespect to Pete Carroll whatsoever, but he's set in his ways, and he gets hired, and he's going to be the veteran coach and the old dog, and and then you got a first-time ever GM. That was my first question at the time: was how does that work? How does that yin and yang come together if they're not really? Yeah, they could be on the same page. They want to win games, but they're not pulling in the same direction. Pete wanted to win now, and the team just wasn't ready for that. A first-year GM wants to build for the future, and yeah, he wants to win. but that wasn't necessarily, they weren't seeing the same. They were both up at 30,000 feet looking down, but they weren't seeing the same things, if that makes sense. And that's why it feels, again, different this season because of that, because everybody is not only on the same page, but pulling in the same direction. Granted, on July 15th, when they haven't even put pads on for training, not only has training camp not begun, they haven't put pads on yet either. So up until then, we're just, we're talking. And we could talk ourselves silly if we want to. But that's what the offseason is for, right? Because it's only 6 weeks now.
Yeah, it goes so fast. I mean, it goes by. The offseason it's over before you know it. I mean, hell, training camp is over before you know it. I was just going through the schedule, and I'm thinking, man, this thing, by the time we blink, we're going to be out there hot, but by the time we blink, it's going to be over. We're going to be back in the stadium ready for week 1 versus the Miami Dolphins. I mean, that literally was 2 months away from last Monday. Like, that's crazy. So here we go. But with that being said, one of the big storylines in training camp, is going to be that offensive line and how quickly it can come together. But how difficult is that when you don't have multiple padded practices, when you only are limited by so many practices? Like, how quickly, realistically, do you think this offensive line can come together?
Well, that's the one of the big storylines, and that's what we talked about last week, right? Was what are the big storylines, and the offensive line is to me that's where games are won and lost. Right. That's where everything starts with the big uglies down in the trenches making it happen. My best supposition here is that did I use that word right? Supposition. My best guess, informed guess, educated guess, is that at least 31 other teams are in the same boat in terms of if they're trying to reimagine a position group or trying to improve a position group. You're all starting at the same place. Where they can, it helps the Raiders is that we've already seen they've had 10 OTA practices, at least 2 mandatory minicamp practices, multiple workouts throughout the offseason. We've seen who's been out there, working together. And then I'll say this till I'm blue in the face, too, about the offensive line. It's not about who your best right guard is. It's not about who your best left guard, your best left tackle. It's about who works best in concert with each other. And as long as everyone's healthy, I think I just said it. We have seen what they like. And we'll go from there. Now, we get out there, and the first day they put pads on, and that offensive line looks completely different than it did in OTAs. Okay, well, then now we'll have an answer there. As Kubiak said, all will reveal itself. And I know that sounds kind of strange, but it's true. And I don't think there's been anything spoken truer this offseason than that.
No, you're right about that. And, obviously that storyline goes with the quarterback conversation. How long is Kirk Cousins going to play? Is Fernando going to, be able to start week 1? And, again, it'll all reveal itself. But I'm looking forward to see how the quarterbacks, how they work in training camp, how you see Fernando grow. I think we all have a good idea who Kirk Cousins is, but I think, and I said I think, there you go, I feel like we'll definitely see Fernando Mendoza grow throughout the course of training camp and preseason, especially preseason. All eyes should be on Fernando during preseason, shouldn't they?
Yeah, and that's where maybe some Tupac will be my next walk-up music if we talk about that next time. All eyes on me. But yeah, that's literally one of the, if not the biggest storyline is the quarterback. Because you can never write about the quarterback enough. You can never write about the running back, the receiver, the edge rusher. But it all starts and ends with the quarterback in terms of the interest. We saw, you and I, we have a habit of standing next to each other to look at certain things. And we saw during OTAs, there was a point there where you saw Kirk Cousins not necessarily yelling or admonishing, but you just saw that veteran leadership where he was putting guys in place. No, you're supposed to line up here. You're supposed to line up here. Mm-hmm. And there was no cursing because that's not what he does. But he was, gosh darning it all over the field and getting guys. And I think you turned to me and said, that's what a veteran can do. That's what he can do. Fernando's not there yet. He can't do that yet because he's not going to command that respect. And that's where the dog days of training camp and all the work and the off-season work and everything else, that's where that's all going to come from. And that's where his personality is going to shine through. Because to me, in the limited conversations I've had with Fernando, he just strikes me as a guy that believes in paying dues. And when you pay your dues, then you're able to take that next step and you kind of go from there. So that is, the biggest storyline as far as I'm concerned is this maturation Fernando Mendoza, more so than when is he going to take over, because he can't take over until he takes that first step and that next step and that next step.
Yes, exactly. And I know that Vinny Bonsignore has been pounding the table on the morning tailgate every morning for him to start day one. I keep saying, what's the rush? Get them out there when they're comfortable. But again, it'll reveal itself when it reveals itself. Training camp, preseason, and beyond that. Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com, is with us here at Raider Nation Radio 920. We'll close out with this, and this is a conversation I'm looking forward to having and coming up at the top of the hour with Ari Meirov from 33team.com. But there's a lot of new in the AFC West. Sean Payton's not calling the plays in Denver anymore. Mike McDaniel is now calling the plays in L.A. with the Chargers, and obviously Clint Kubiak is going to be calling the plays as the head coach with the Raiders. What do you think how do you think that changes what we're used to seeing when it comes to these different teams? Because now there's different voices and different styles as the play callers.
Well, from the Raider perspective, it doesn't. What everybody else is doing doesn't matter. It just matters what they get accomplished in Las Vegas, what happens in Henderson, what happens on that side of the ball, and how they can impart their will on these other teams defensively. So if they get themselves caught up in wondering what's happening in Denver or L.A. or even Kansas City, because we don't know when Patrick Mahomes is going to come back, right? Then you're kind of losing the plot at that point. The plot is take care of everything in-house first, then you can impart your will elsewhere. That, to me, is what it all matters. And you're right. Like, if you go back up 30,000 feet looking down, it is. It's still, to me, this and the NFC West are the two best divisions in all of football. And that's something that football fan should just basically pay attention to that. But if you're a Raider fan and you're in that building, none of that matters. It's all outside noise. Focus on what's going on in-house. And love Vinny. And Vinny's going to be mad at me for saying this, but Vinny also said that Aaron Donald's not coming back to play either. So you take that with a grain of salt.
Facts. Hey, man. Again, in all caps, facts. So there's that. So every once in a while, Vinny will have a bad take. I think he'll agree to that. He was also excited about Jimmy Garoppolo. All right, I'm gonna stop firing shots at him now. So I'll leave it alone. Jimmy G. I will. Hey, look, man. I'll say this: Jimmy G was a morning tailgate guy. He was not unnecessary roughness guy. I kept saying, I don't see how this is an upgrade, but okay. I guess we'll go with it. But yeah, hey, man, Vinny was pounding the table for Jimmy G. So.
He was a paisan. And I understand that. I respect that. I love that. Even if Jeff Garcia came back, I'd be all about Jeff Garcia from the Latinos' perspective. No.
There you go.
I don't get myself in trouble with that one.
Well, I'm not pounding the table for Geno Smith back. I'll just say that. Let's go ahead and throw that out there. They can keep him in New York, brother. I'm not pounding that table.
So what am I working on next? What am I working on next? Q, let's get out of this.
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea. But what do you have coming up next so that we can be paying attention to before we get ourselves in all kind of trouble?
So you inspired me last week, and I've got a column coming Friday on Raiders.com on, it's really easy to talk about the quarterbacks, the offensive line, Max Crosby, the 3-4, the heat-seeking missiles, the rebuilds. I went kind of backwards and said, what are some under-the-radar storylines? And I looked at the special teams. Games can be won or lost on special teams, and when you got a veteran in Matt Gay who hasn't really had a very good past 3 seasons, relatively speaking, going against one of the most intriguing players on the entire roster in the Tokyo Toe, that's something to keep an eye on, as well as who are going to be returning the kicks. The guys that led in punt return average or punt return and kick return average, they're both gone. All right, so who runs that? And I know I'm kind of scooping myself here, but also the third one is, what about A.J. Cole? I mean, he's the last man standing. And if you look at Raider history, they've always kind of had that unique pairing of punter and kicker who were at the top of their games. When you go back to Ray Guy and Chris Barr, or even Jeff Jager and Jeff Gossett, Seabass and Shane Leckler, and, A.J. and Daniel, and now A.J.'s the last man standing. So just some different storylines to keep an eye on, special team style. Beyond that, I actually got a UNLV Hoop story coming on, a freelance story for Hoop My Guy, Seth Davis at Hoops HQ. And, it's interesting because Josh Pastner, the coach there, he came and spoke to my sports journalism class at UNLV late in the spring for their final. And he mentioned a lot then. I talked to him later about he's kind of taking a Moneyball approach to how to build a roster with the NIL. Because UNLV, you think of that and you think back to the day when we were kids or whatever. When NIL was non-existent, UNLV more than likely led the league in NIL, led the country in NIL, right?
Yep.
And as Anderson Hunt told me at the time, we called them boosters. Now, when it's legal, UNLV's a mid-major team. And so he knows that the pastor knows that he has to rebuild his roster year after year after year now. And, He's only got 2 guys coming back from last year's team that finished 1 game above 500, but they're feeling pretty good about themselves, especially in a rebuilt Mountain West Conference. So those are 2 things to keep an eye on here in the next few days.
Nice. I like it. I know Pastor talked to our guy, Steve Cofield from Cofield & Company, our sister station at Summer League just the other day. Have you got out to any Summer League action? Have you checked any of that out yet or no?
I have not. I've stayed out of the heat, man. I've gone up to the Bay Area, and it's hot up here, man. It's 89 degrees. I don't know what I'm doing with myself.
89? I woke up and it was 89 today, so I'll take 89, brother. But no, you are smart. Sooner rather than later, we'll all be out there at the Intermountain Health Performance Center, and there is no shade. And so we'll be out there, and we're not going to be running around sweating it up like those guys, but it'll be hot out there for us too. So, take it in while you can, man, because pretty soon it's going to be hotter than a furnace out there. So we definitely appreciate you as always.
Sounds good, man. And the only shade it's going to be is the shade you're going to be throwing at people. So there you go.
Yes, exactly. Paul Gutierrez, Raiders.com. Appreciate you as always, my man. And, man, everyone just caught one, right? Everyone just caught a stray. That's messed up. Like, Vinny's probably wondering, like, what in the world just happened? How did I catch 8 strays all of a sudden between Q and Paul? And they were mainly all me. But, look, I was very adamant when that whole situation was happening with Jimmy G that I was not Team Jimmy G. Now, we're always going to support whoever's rocking the silver and black. That's what we're supposed to do. We always want everyone to succeed. But, man, the morning tailgate was so fired up about Jimmy G, and I was not. And we all know how that all played out. And but Vinny's my guy, so I can give him a bad time like that. Matter of fact, this is a nice little plug. He'll join the show tomorrow. So there you go. I can tell him about himself tomorrow. We'll do that when he joins the show and we talk about him. But who else caught a slug there? Let's see. Jimmy G caught one. Gino caught one. Gino deserves one, though, man. Like, man. It was tough. At some point, you just knew that he was fighting everybody, right? I mean, he was the guy that I had high hopes for. Thought he had an opportunity. Hey, man, this is gonna be his team, and he's gonna be able to show everyone. But it seems like once he got in his head, he just couldn't get out of there. And so it just seemed like I said, it seemed like he was fighting everyone. It didn't matter if it was the fans, the media. I know he wasn't fighting his teammates, but man, it just seemed like he was in a place where he was just very, very uncomfortable. Many thanks to Paul G. We do appreciate him. We want to continue to hear from you. Any veteran player out there, or maybe even players that you think the Raiders could land at a reasonable price that won't get in the way just to add depth. Let us know your thoughts. We've got Ari Meirov, 33team.com. Join us next. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
Extra down. Handoff to Tracy. Noah play fake. He's back to throw. Dart slips at the 40, and he's taken down for a sack. Might be the easiest one that Tonka Hemingway will ever have. Jackson Dart spun away from the defender, and as he tried to move the other direction, his feet went out from under him, and he's sacked for 15 yards.
It's Unnecessary Roughness. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right. Here's your boy Q.
Hey, sometimes you got to take the easy ones, too. Right? That was the easy one for Tonka Hemingway. Excited to see what he's going to do in year 2. Think him and J.J. Pegues going to be able to do a little something. I really do like Tonka a lot. Really think that he's going to have an opportunity to show what he can do coming up in training camp. Saw what he was able to do in OTAs and mandatory minicamp, and it seems like more times than not, look down and Tonka was making some kind of a noise. Now, I'm not saying he's turning into the next Aaron Donald. I'm not trying to get crazy like that, but do think he can be a big-time player for this team and really be a important part of that rotation that they have along the defensive line. It is Unnecessary Roughness here on Raider Nation Radio 920. We threw the question out there. We do want to hear from you on the text line at 702-365-9200. Is there any veteran player or players out there that you think the Raiders could land at a reasonable price, right? You're just talking about depth, just someone that can help out either side of the ball, whether that's a veteran wide receiver to extend a drive on third down, not get in the way like I think that, we saw last year. We just saw Tyler Lockett out there way too long. So when you knew that the season was a wash for the Raiders, there was no reason for him to be in the way of the young dudes at that stage of the game. But maybe a guy that can help extend a drive, maybe a guy that can, pin his ears back on third down, trying to get to the quarterback. Someone, like I said, that plays a reasonable role, not a big name that's going to take over the spotlight. 702-365-9200. We did get this quick text, and then we get to Ari Meirov from 33team.com. He said, hey, Q, I think anytime Jimmy G and or Gino get brought up, we need to play the Denny Green soundbite. They are who we thought we were. So I like that. They are who they thought they were. You got that one, huh, Ari? You got that one? Oh, you don't have that one.
I'm looking.
Okay, I thought you had it in there, but I know that some things got moved around a little bit in the studio. But, yeah, I think that's a great description when you think about Jimmy G and or Geno Smith. They are who we thought they were. And so there they go. But, yeah, nobody like that. You don't want to bring in someone into the mix like that. But do keep that feedback coming. And, Andy, we do appreciate that text, 702-365-9200. As promised, Ari Meirov from the 33team.com joins us now on the phone lines. And, Ari, thanks so much. We do appreciate you as always. And normally at the end I ask you what you're working on, but I know you have the NFL Spotlight. And you do a fantastic job. And the last Spotlight that you put out, David Blau, offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders, he was the Spotlight. And it's got a ton of feedback so far, and it's been a whole lot of positives. So tell us about your latest Spotlight that is David Blau.
Yeah, Q. I mean, this one was interesting because I've had many young coaches on the show before, but this was the first time I actually felt old because if you go to my timeline, there are tweets from David Blau as a rookie in the NFL and his playing career and all these different things. And now look at this guy. He's 30 years old and he's about to become the offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders. And it's a really good story. We go through his entire path and journey. And this is a guy who was an undrafted quarterback who was traded as a rookie from Cleveland to Detroit, who, if fans remember, in his rookie year on Thanksgiving, he started a game for the Lions, and he immediately threw a 75-yard touchdown on his first ever completion. So he has a really fun story, but he's been around some brilliant minds from Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell and Kevin O'Connell and Cliff Kingsbury, and he always wanted a coach, and he got hired in 2024 to become the assistant quarterbacks coach in Washington. That was Jaden Daniels' rookie year, and of course, remember how special all that was. And he basically kept on learning and grinding and loved being a coach to the point that this offseason, he went from assistant quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator, a massive jump. So I'm fascinated by all of it, and we spoke for 45 minutes, and it was a tremendous conversation, and it's pretty easy to see why a lot of people in league circles are very high on him as a future coach.
Yeah, and there was a lot of really good feedback on that conversation that you had, and there was even a story that was featured having Matt Stafford involved in it and what Matt Stafford was able to do for him as well. So clearly he's got a lot of respect around the league from his peers and other coaches. But, Ari, that leads me to thinking about all the different play callers that are in the league this year, 21 different play callers, and it seems like that there's a lot of trend to the younger offensive-minded coach. And then I look right here where we're at in Las Vegas with Clint Kubiak. I know he's not quite, only 30 years old. He's a young guy, but he's still he's getting his first time to be a head coach. It seems like there's a big trend going to the young offensive-minded coaches.
You are 100% spot on. And, this is like Kubiak would be considered old for what's coming right now in the NFL. It's unbelievable, the trend that we are on. And I'm just telling you, you mentioned that there are 21 new offensive coordinators in the NFL, whether it's just switching teams or whatever. There's 21 teams right now who are going to have a new offensive coordinator this year. But at the end of this season, I'm just telling you right now, there is going to be a bunch of teams out there who had success with these coordinators, and these young guys are going to get interviews for head coaches because you know it, I know it. This league just loves offense, and they want to hire the next young, great offensive mind. And whether it is David Blau or Davis Webb in Denver or Sean Mannion in Philadelphia or Granny Dinsky in Jacksonville or Declan Doyle in Baltimore, like these guys are all in their early 30s to mid-30s. And those teams, there are some great quarterbacks and good offenses, and at least 3 or 4 of them are going to make the playoffs and have a lot of success. So as a result, I think we're going to be in position because of all of these offensive coordinators in the NFL that are pretty young and they're going to have success this year, that we're going to have some pretty young head coaches in the NFL next year as a result.
Ari Meirov, 33team.com is with us here on RaiderNation Radio 920. I'm glad you mentioned Davis Webb. I wanted to ask you about him. He takes over the play calling duties in Denver. Sean Payton gives it up, which is surprising to me. He was in the running for multiple head coaching jobs, including the Raiders job here that went to Clint Kubiak. How do you think that dynamic's going to work with Davis Webb now as the play caller and Sean Payton just kind of being the guy that's overseeing everything now?
You know, it's a great thing you asked that because it is such a major, major shift. And Steph Wickersham at ESPN did this incredible piece last week. It was a very, very long read, but once you start reading, you fall into it. Like, it's so good. Talking about Sean Payton and the experience last year and the playoff run and all of it. And in part of it, and I saw Steph Wickersham talking about this on a few other shows, Sean giving up play calling, he mentions it on the record, like being an offensive play caller at 62 is different than when I was 42. Like, it just is. And Davis is somebody who is really, really bright, and he's ready for this moment. And he's going to run the offense, as he will. But I'm still going to be involved. Like, I'm going to be in those meetings, and I'm going to question him, and I'm going to try to make sure we have everything down. But once Sunday comes along, this is going to be his show, and I'll be listening on the headset and making sure everything is going well. But this is a major opportunity for Davis, because if you would have told anybody in the NFL a few years ago that Sean Payton would be giving up play calling, they would think that, oh, the Broncos are coming off a 4-13 year, and, you know, this is a last-ditch effort to try to save his job. This team should have been in the Super Bowl last year if Bo Nix does not get hurt. I mean, that's the season they're coming off of, and he's still making this change. So Davis, and we spoke about this over the course of the offseason, me and you, because he was a candidate for the Raiders job. Davis is somebody who is loved around the NFL. He always knew he would be a coach, and he is somebody that when he got hired by the Broncos and Sean Payton a few years ago, Sean was not looking to hire him. He just heard about him and was like, you know what, let me interview this guy. And he was blown away. And usually when you go into coaching, your first job is assistant quarterbacks or offensive quality control or offensive analyst. Sean Payton made him the quarterbacks coach right away to become the quarterbacks coach for Russell Wilson back then, who was older than him. I mean, it just says a lot about just the brilliance of who he is and what he could be. So this is a big change in Denver. I'm curious to see how it goes. But Sean will definitely be involved, but Davis is 100% taking over the play calling, which is a very big deal.
Yeah, it really is, and definitely caught my attention. There's a lot of change in the AFC West in general, and again, Ari Meirov, 33team.com is with us here on RaiderNation Radio 920. So let me go to another team that has some change and a new play caller. That's the Chargers with Mike McDaniel. He's no longer the Dolphins head coach. He's the OC in L.A. with the Chargers and Justin Herbert. How do you think that dynamic works out, and you know how much better can this Chargers offense be with a sharp mind like Mike McDaniel as the OC?
You know, it's another very unique dynamic because Jim Harbaugh is an offensive mind, obviously, and he's a former quarterback himself. And historically, he's always had his guys on his staff. And, you know, Greg Roman historically has always been that guy from San Francisco and obviously here in Los Angeles. And they fired him after the season because it was so disappointing. And so far in Los Angeles in 2 years with the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh has made the playoffs both years, and he's been bounced both years with really not impressive performances in both games. So they needed a change, and this is a dynamic where Mike McDaniel wanted this job. Mike McDaniel, when he took this job, was still a candidate for multiple head coaching jobs, and he was like, no, I want to take a bit of I want to be the offensive guy. I want to lock myself in the room and work with the quarterback and work with the offense, and I don't have to deal with all the extra stuff that comes with being a head coach. I'll worry about becoming a head coach once again next year. But he wanted to go back to his roots and what he loves. And he specifically picked the Chargers. He wanted to be on the West Coast, but he also wanted to work with Justin Herbert and that offense with a bunch of really interesting pieces from Omarion Hampton and Ladd McConkey. And they really love their receiver Trey Harris and Quentin Johnston, and they have a trio of tight ends with David Njoku and Orlando Gatson and Charlie Kolar, who may be the best blocking tight end in football, definitely a top three in that department, and they feel like they'll be able to truly have this be Mike McDaniel's offense. He's going to be the one running it. Jim Harbaugh will oversee it, but I think it's different than the Denver situation that we spoke about. Like, Sean, I think, is going to be very, very involved, and I think he'll question situations where he feels like, hey, I don't agree with this. Convince me that you're right. This situation in L.A., this is Mike McDaniel's show, and Jim is going to watch it. But what Mike McDaniel wants, Mike McDaniel is going to get. That's kind of the authority that he has right now in L.A. And we saw it. I mean, in those first couple of years in Miami, what they were able to do offensively with Tua and Tyreek and Waddle and Mostert and Achane, like, that was really, really impressive. I don't think they have that type of speed on this team, but there are a lot of really good pieces where you can move a lot of guys around and make some things happen. So it's another very interesting dynamic, but I do think it's different than Denver, where I do think Mike McDaniel has full authority of the offense there in LA, which is a big change. Had a big voice there. Greg officially was the guy, but Jim had a big voice. Jim will have a voice here, but this is Mike McDaniel's show right now in L.A.
With all that being said, Ari, and fantastic stuff, how much, I guess, pressure is on Justin Herbert? A really good quarterback, we know that, but hasn't had any playoff success yet, not a playoff victory, and it's one of those where a lot of people, including myself, keep saying, yeah, but when is he going to take that next step? Is that this year? Does he have to do that this year?
It is a situation where there is pressure, like there is. And I remember having this conversation on my show last year where we do a training camp series every year. You were a guest for the Raiders. Mm-hmm. We did it with Daniel Popper of The Athletic for the Chargers, and I asked him about, the pressure for Justin Herbert and the Chargers and no playoff wins, and his playoff performances so far include, a few years ago that epic collapse versus the Jaguars where they had the 27-point lead and they still lost. Like, does he feel the pressure? And he said, it's impossible naturally not to feel it, but he definitely doesn't show it. But at some point, especially after, again, what happened last year, it kind of starts coming to you, and it's like, hey, you're supposed to be one of the elite quarterbacks in football. You're making $53 million per year. You're in Los Angeles, SoFi Stadium. We hired Jim Harbaugh for you, and we still can't get over the hump. So I do think the pressure is going to be there, but it's one of those big picture items where the way I look at it, Justin Herbert is a top 10 quarterback in the league. If the playoff success is not going to be there, I don't ever envision the Chargers being like, you know what, we're going to move on from Justin now because you can't get over the hump. That's not the way this stuff works when you have a top type of quarterback in the league the way Justin has shown he could be. So I don't think it ever gets to that stage, but organizationally, from ownership down, they've invested so much in that organization from getting Jim, from the unbelievable facility that they have over there, which I think is a top 2-3 facility in the league right there with Vegas. But they have not had the success when it comes to the playoffs. And that's the one thing that's missing right now. So I do think there is pressure on him to get over the hump, but I don't think it's the type of pressure where it's like, oh, we might move on from you eventually because it's not working out.
Ari Meirov, 33team.com is with us here, RaiderNation Radio 920, Unnecessary Roughness. So continuing on with the differences in the AFC West, the Chiefs, they remain the same. Eric Bieniemy is there to, help out with the run game. But with the Raiders, bringing it back home, Clint Kubiak is the head coach. Andrew Janocko is the OC, and we know that Clint Kubiak is going to be calling the plays. How do you view this dynamic with Kubiak now with the Raiders, and Kirk Cousins has an opportunity to be the quarterback? Fernando Mendoza obviously will be the future. How do you see this play calling going on, and now him being the head coach as well?
Well, first of all, just speaking to a few people in that building from the front office and even a couple of people on the coaching staff, you sense something different compared to last year. Last year, I think a lot of people in that building kind of felt like, okay, this is not going to work out. I think people knew right away. This year, just speaking to people there, people see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not saying they're going to have, success to the point of a playoffs or anything like that, but they see where the arrow is pointing up. And I think that is a very big deal just initially when it comes to all this. Just the free agents they signed, the draft class they had, the players they brought in, the coaching staff that is there. Just that part of it is a very big plus in all of this. So I think just getting that out of the way is probably most important. But looking at Clint and looking at that staff, I do genuinely believe that going into training camp, I know people are going to put them into the same category of quarterback competition as there is in Minnesota and Atlanta and Cleveland and some other places. Like, I really don't view it like that. I really, really believe that organizationally, they really want this to be where Clint Kubiak is the coach, Kirk Cousins is going to be the quarterback, and Fernando is going to be learning and watching and continue to competing. But officially, it's really going to be Kirk's job of year going into the year, because nobody really knows the offense better than Kirk. He's been around Clint over the years multiple times, and that has obviously been a big plus for him. So I do think just that part of it, I think Clint and his staff are genuinely going to be leaning on Kirk to try to show the ropes to a bunch of these guys over, whether it is a Fernando or other people from receivers and running backs and tight ends and the offensive line, obviously, just how a Clint Kubiak offense is supposed to be. I would consider Kirk to be an extension of the coaching staff, even though he's a player. That's the way I would even view him. And I think they do want him to kind of row the boat to start this year. And eventually, I do think it's going to come down to Fernando will be there. I don't know when it's going to be, whether it's the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter season. I don't know where it's going to be. But I do think from an organizational standpoint, the coaching staff, from Clint and Janoko and everybody, I think they kind of view Kirk as being such a big piece of what they want to teach players to a Clint Kubiak offense is supposed to look like. And I think that's going to be like the biggest emphasis that is going to be there going into training camp. I'm very curious, Q, to see when they officially name a starting quarterback. Are they going to get that out of the way right away? Or are they going to take this down to the very end, even though I think organization, like I said, they would like for it to be Kirk over here to start the year?
That's a really good question. That's something that I hadn't thought about. When are they going to officially name any one of the guys as a starting quarterback for the Silver and Black, whether it's Kirk Cousins or it is Fernando Mendoza? That's a really, really good question. Ari Meirov, 33rdteam.com with us here. Raider Nation Radio 920. Well, we'll close out with this. Two quarterbacks that I look at as elite, and the rest of the league does as well. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen have new coaches in place. Now, Joe Brady in Buffalo, he's the head coach. He was there as the OC, but he's elevated. And now there's a new OC in Baltimore as well, as John Harbaugh's in New York, as you know, and Jesse Minter is the head coach. Who do you think has more success this upcoming year, Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, and why?
Man, that's a tough one. I mean, they're both really, really elite special quarterbacks, like you said, even though for whatever reason the NFL Top 100 has Lamar at number 69, which makes zero sense at all to me. But, yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I do believe both quarterbacks are going to be great. I do believe Baltimore is going to make it back to the playoffs this year after missing it just barely last year. I do believe Josh is going to be fine because it's the same system and all that, but I do think we're going to get a bit of a different version of Lamar Jackson this year. And what I mean by that is, we mentioned his name before, Declan Doyle, the new offensive coordinator in Baltimore. He's going to be calling the plays this year. He was in Chicago last year with Ben Johnson. And before that, he really got his start in coaching with Sean Payton. And he's just 30 years old. He's the same age as Lamar Jackson. It's unbelievable. He was on my show last year when he was in Chicago. But he is, when it comes to attention to detail, he's right up there with Ben Johnson. And I think what we're going to see from Lamar this year is they're putting a big emphasis on his footwork. And it's not about like, hey, just go out there and scramble and run the way you could. I think his ability to be able to have his feet and his ability to throw the ball and hit his targets in a quick manner, which we've seen over the years, he's able to do it. I think he wants to take that to another level. And if he's able to do that, I think Baltimore and Declan Doyle, again, I think he's going to be a future head coach in this league. I think they can unlock a completely new level of Lamar Jackson that we've never seen before. Like, we've seen him do unbelievable things with his feet and extending the play and getting the ball out, and all of a sudden Zay Flowers is catching it for 60 yards. It's awesome. But I think they really want to see how an offense would be with Lamar. If there's also an element of he's able to get the ball out of his hands in 1.5, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and boom. And if they're able to do that, I think they believe they're going to be able to have a whole different ballgame of Lamar Jackson the NFL has never seen before. So I do think Declan wants to do that this year. And from everything I've heard, Lamar Jackson has been all in on this new offense and has this new energy with him that he kind of, it kind of grew old and grew stale with Todd Monken and John Harbaugh over the course of the time they were together. So I think Josh will be great in Buffalo and he'll continue to be Josh. But I have this feeling, a sense, that we're going to see a new and improved Lamar Jackson like we've never seen before this year, and it's going to be quite fascinating.
Well, I'll tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, this was a lesson in there's a lot of new play callers in the National Football League, a lot of sharp offensive mind that are young guys, which means the head coaching search next offseason is going to have a lot of names you might not know but are up-and-comers, and that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned for the National Football League. Well, Ari, fantastic stuff as always. Your NFL spotlight right now, offensive coordinator from the Commanders, David Blau. We talked about that at the beginning. What else are you working on that we should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting ready here for training camps to open up. We'll continue to do our spotlight interviews here every single Tuesday. We've had some amazing guests here in recent weeks, from David Blau, like you mentioned, the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator Clayton Adams was on the show. We had Frank Ross, the Texans special teams coordinator, the Seahawks pass game coordinator Jake Peets. Like, we've had a lot of really good guests here in recent weeks, and we'll continue to do that every single Tuesday. But with training camp around the corner, we're going to do a team-by-team training camp preview here leading up to the season with one person from every team who covers the team. Q, you are the official guy for the Raiders, so we're going to have you on here for that. But we're going to go team by team here very, very soon. That's going to be starting here in late July, going all the way until the season opener with that Wednesday game of the Seahawks and Patriots. So that's a really fun thing that we started last year, and we'll do it again here this year.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It's awesome, and it's always an honor to be on your show. So anytime you need me, you give me a call. You know I'm there. But we definitely appreciate your input and all your feedback that you have on the show with us this afternoon. We definitely appreciate you.
Anytime, my friend.
Ari Meirov, 33team.com with us here, Raider Nation Radio 920. Fascinating stuff, really good stuff, and I do like the direction where it's not the same old recycled coaches year in and year out. That's why I said I think it's a really good thing that there's so many new up-and-coming coaches, young dudes, and these guys are going to have opportunities to be head coaches, just like Clint Kubiak, and now gets his opportunity to be a head coach. And, again, everything that we just spent the last, Ari, 20-so minutes with Ari talking about when it comes to new play callers is the reason why it's so good that Clint Kubiak is the head coach of the Raiders, because we don't have to worry about, well, all of a sudden he does really well with Kirk Cousins or he does really well with Fernando Mendoza or both, and then all of a sudden he's off to a new job. I mean, at the beginning, Ari was talking about Coach Mike McDaniel there in L.A. and said, hey, I'll worry about a head coaching job next year, which to me, that was a question that we asked. I don't know if he wants to be a head coach again. Well, clearly from that answer, he wants to be a head coach again. So maybe they have really good success this year as an offense, and then all of a sudden he's gone and he's a head coach. Then they were looking and searching for someone else. So how does that, affect that team moving forward? So the good thing for the Raiders, they don't have to worry about that. John Spytek hired Clint Kubiak, and he's going to have that opportunity to grow with the quarterbacks, obviously Kirk Cousins and Fernando Mendoza, and then don't have to worry about, well, maybe he's going to get snatched up by a team looking for a sharp offensive mind. It is Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920. You got Mike Debate, writer for New England Patriots on SI, coming up in a hot minute. We did get this text real quick that I wanted to get to from Raider Donut from Fresno. He said, hey, Q, was wondering, since A.J. Brown is now in New England, do you think that Kayshon Boutte will get lost in the shuffle on the depth chart? Do you believe the Raiders could grab him for a third-round pick and he's shining our offense? Thanks for your time. Go Raiders. And it's funny that you asked that because, again, he is in New England. We've got Mike Debate coming up in a hot minute, so that'll be one of the first questions that we ask. But there has been a lot of speculation that the former sixth-round pick in Boutte could be available by way of trade since, like you mentioned, A.J. Brown is there in town. I don't know if that's an avenue that the Raiders want to go down, at least not on July 15th. But, as I mentioned before, maybe after August 13th, maybe after the first preseason game, maybe even after August 20th, right? The second preseason game at Houston. Maybe they say, yeah, you know what, we need to add to that wide receiving room. Maybe that's a move that they look at, and you could probably get him. Probably not even a third-round pick, to be honest. It's probably a little bit rich since he was a former sixth-round pick. But I don't know the answers to that, but we will ask that question next. Mike Debate, writer at New England Patriots on SI, he'll join the show. But I know Ari's got some winning that he's got he wants to give away as well.
Oh, yeah. A 4-pack of tickets to see the Aviators versus the El Paso Chihuahuas at Las Vegas Ballpark on the 25th of July. Get 4 tickets with me right now, or at Ticketmaster, of course. Give me a call, 702-365-9200. Caller 9, must be a Nevada resident.
Boom, there it is right there. Mike Debate, he joins us next. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
this move, along with the other moves the Patriots have made, in my opinion, puts them at the top of the stack of the AFC. And it's not just because they made the Super Bowl last year. It's because they want to make sure it does not happen again, the way they lost to Seattle. They now have a dude on offense that's not a quarterback that can help Drake May. They have a really good defense. They help the offensive line a little bit, getting Ali Berry-Tucker if he can stay healthy. Adding an A.J. Brown to your young quarterback about to enter into his prime years, to me, makes the Patriots at the top of the AFC stack.
It's the Raiders opponent preview. Right now on Unnecessary Roughness.
Freddie Coleman from Freddie and Harry on ESPN Radio talking about the Patriots who made the move for A.J. Brown. It was the inevitable. Everyone that talked about it leading up to the process, and, well, finally it got done. And so now A.J. Brown is wide receiver 1 in New England. So what does that mean for others, including a guy like Kayshon Boutte? Is Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920. And to help us answer that question and more, we bring in our good friend Mike DeBate, writer for the New England Patriots on SI. And Mike, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you. The timing was perfect. We actually had a texter that said, do you think with the addition of A.J. Brown in New England that Boutte could be a guy that the Patriots would look to trade? And then I saw the tweet from Boutte where he's basically in the dark and has the eyeball emoji. I saw that you retweeted that. So what's the latest and the greatest? Is he on his way out of Foxborough?
Yeah, just like anything else, Q, everybody right now is keeping everything close to the vest. Obviously, social media can be a harbinger of things to come. So I would advise Raider Nation, anybody out there that is concerned with what may happen with the New England Patriots, whether you're a Pats fan, a Pats hater, or neutral, to keep a sharp eye on what's going on there, because that will be telltale. Look, bottom line, I love Kayshon Boutte in terms of what he brings to this football team in New England. He was one of their best players last year, a guy that's got big playability, uses his frame to his advantage. He can go up and make the big catch. We've seen him do it in the postseason. He's grown by leaps and bounds when it comes to maturity and really taking on a leadership role in that locker room. But the Patriots brought in A.J. Brown. They brought in Romeo Doubs. Now this is going to be a team where Kayshon may be fighting to try to get wide receiver 3 reps. He believes he's a little bit better than that, and I have to agree with him, and I have to support him on that. And I think the team realizes that as well. So as much as selfishly I would love to keep Kayshon in New England, it's looking likely like maybe a trade may be inevitable at this point. And on that basis, really, I think anything is possible right now. I know the Pats would love to do right by him. I can tell you that. And where he ends up could be a matter of conjecture. So right now, that's the latest and probably the most I can give you on Kayshon Boutte.
It's funny in our text that we got. It was well, maybe they can trade him for a 3rd-round pick. He was a former 6th-round pick. What do you think the Patriots could possibly even want for him from any team, not the Raiders, but just any team out there if they are interested in Kayshon?
Well, a colleague of mine at SI obviously has been around the team and been around the NFL for a number of years. Albert Breer came out a couple of days ago and said that he believed this could get done for a 5th-round pick. Now, if you told me that a few weeks ago, I probably would have laughed at you and said, no, based on what Kayshon showcased the last couple of years that he could do, I think they can do a little bit better than that. But again, I think it means a lot to the team, and I think it means a lot to Kayshon to land in a spot where he can be, at the very least, a wide receiver 2. To me, at that point, I think they might be willing to take a little bit less on the dollar, but it really depends on if a bidding war starts for his services. And Q, you know as well as anyone, when rumors start to get out there, especially about a receiver, which are so coveted in this league, everybody's jockeying for position. They want that guy that's going to put them over the top. And Kayshon Boutte can be the guy that can help an established wide receiver core get even better. He's not going to take one that's at the bottom of the barrel and raise them to new heights. He can help that along, but he'll need help to do it. But if there's a receiver core that they feel or a team feels can get out there and get better by adding him, yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. So I think it's going to be about what Kayshon's looking for, what the team is willing to part with, and what other teams, most importantly, are willing to give up. But, I think that I think a 5th would probably be the worst-case scenario in New England. Maybe as high as a 4th, I would possibly say. I think a 3rd might be a little wishful thinking now that a lot of the information is out there that he probably is going to be moved. I think it's going to be difficult for the Patriots to recoup that kind of capital in return.
That's a nice nugget to have. Nice little notes to have right there. Again, Mike Debate, writer for the New England Patriots on SI with us here. Raider Nation Radio 920. Now, when you look at the schedule coming up on October 11th, the Raiders will be in Foxborough taking on the Patriots, and it seems so crazy that the season's right around the corner, but that's where we are. So we're doing a little strength, weakness, and X factor for each team outside of the Raiders division. So when you look at the team, the way it's built and constructed right now, a couple of weeks out from the start of training camp, what would you say the ultimate strength of the Patriots is?
Well, this is kind of a departure from what a lot of people might believe. I think the strength of this team right now is its offense. I really and truly believe that. And after the way they performed in the playoffs last year, a lot of people may be rolling their eyes. But look, Drake May compiled 4,394 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, only threw 8 interceptions. He led his club to a 14-3 record, finished runner-up in MVP voting. But a lot of what Drake did last year was earn the respect and the trust of his teammates. Now, he struggled on the game's biggest stage, and he had a tough playoff. And, again, a very dismal performance in the Super Bowl against the Raiders. But when you look at what the Patriots did to try to mitigate the problems that he had last year and the protection issues that were given along the offensive line, Patriots sign Elijah Vera Tucker to slot in at left guard. You draft Caleb Lomu as Morgan Moses' understudy. At the very least, he's going to be a very good reserve tackle for this team this year. I can tell you they've invested a lot in Will Campbell. They're making sure that his training is not only going to help him to be a stronger lineman, but a better job of holding up against pass rush. They understand that he had difficulty there last year, and they're investing a lot in making sure Will is better in that area. And an under-the-radar signing, and sounds weird under the radar because up until they brought in A.J. Brown, this was the move of the offseason for the Patriots. But I love the addition of Romeo Doubs to this team. I think it's a lot bigger than pundits are giving it credit for. He can make compact catches. He's got great hands, short hands, and that's something the Patriots love, especially Josh McDaniels. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to invoke the name of McDaniels in Raider Nation. I apologize for that. We'll call him the OC.
There you go.
But bottom line, I think he's going to be very effective for the Patriots by creating separation at the top of his routes. That's where he was at his best in Green Bay, and that's one area where the Patriots struggled last year. So if you take that and add all that in, A.J. Brown becomes the icing on the cake. He becomes the cherry on top of the sundae, and this is a guy that's had 1,000 receiving yards in 6 of his NFL seasons. When he's healthy, he's got the whole package, the size, contested catch strength, speed, route running, attitude. He's where he wants to be. That, to me, is going to speak volumes about this passing game this year, and it's going to take pressure off of Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson to always have to advance the ball. I think it makes them better runners as well. So you couple all that in, you throw in Hunter Henry and Eli Raritan as a rookie at the tight end position. All of a sudden, the Patriots offense, I think, is going to have a much better time moving the ball this year because, like you said in the introduction, they have made some real big strides with upgrading that offensive line. So if they can get protection for Drake May, it's going to be a fun offense to watch for New England Patriots fans.
Yeah, with all the upgrades and everything that they've done around Drake May, obviously they're trying to support him as much as possible. How much better do you think he can be from what we saw last year where a lot of people had him in the MVP conversation? Can he take a big, massive step forward?
I think he can. And again, if he's going to get the protection up front, that's going to allow him to be able to take that extra second and make sure that he's taking the sack correctly or make sure that he's moving the ball downfield, and it's going to improve his field vision. One of the things last year that Drake struggled with was performing under pressure. He would essentially, have difficulty making the quick decision to be able to shed the ball or try to make things happen. When he was pressured toward the end of the season, he fell back into a lot of what you saw at UNC, the gunslinger mentality. I'm going to make the play. I can make it happen. Put his team on his back and see what's going to happen from there. That'll work for you in college. It's not going to work in the pros where these defenses are great one week after another. And he ran into a juggernaut in the Seattle Seahawks in the playoffs especially. So New England right now understands that, and that's why they've invested so much into upgrading not only the youth but also the athleticism in this offensive line. And I think that's going to mean a big step forward for Drake. We saw leadership abilities last year. We saw him become a team captain. I can tell you from players that I've spoken to at every walk of life on that roster, nothing but respect for Drake May. And they're looking at him saying He's coming in training camp. Well, training camp will support in a couple of days, but rookie mini camp, he was there. Mandatory mini camp. He's doing what he needs to do to make sure that everyone on that team is locked in and under his leadership. To me, I think that's the big key and the biggest leap that he's going to take in 2026.
Mike Boutte, writer for the New England Patriots on SI, is with us here at RaiderNation Radio 920, doing a little strength, weakness, and X factor for teams outside of the Raiders division for the 2026 season. And, of course, the Raiders go to New England in Week 5. So, Mike, what would the weakness of this team be as it currently stands?
Well, again, I think a lot of it is going to hinge on the offensive line. I'm not saying that's going to be a weakness, but if they struggle in any capacity, that is severely going to weaken the Patriots' chances of repeating not only as AFC East champions, but also champions of the AFC. Look, bottom line, if this team is not protecting its quarterback, all the same problems that the Patriots had in the second half and in the playoffs of the season last year are going to come rearing their ugly head back. So they need to make strides, and they need to make sure that's going to be done. I believe they've done enough in that area to make them better than they were a year ago. I would have liked to have seen them address the pass rush a little bit more. This team did have a very good defense, and I think they will continue to have a good defense. But down the stretch, you missed that element, that extra gear that some of these pass rushers have to be able to get after the quarterback and make life difficult. Sam Darnold had a lot of time in the Super Bowl this year to make things happen and really, I think, looked to exploit the weaknesses of that defense. I would have liked to have seen them address that a little bit more, but maybe some of the young guys that they have, coming in can make some strides in that area. But that could be an issue, especially if someone like a veteran like Harold Landry comes in and is in any way hampered from off-season knee surgery. That could end up being an issue for New England. That's why it's important for the rookie Gabe Akers to sign his contract, get on the field, and the Patriots need to get him acclimated into this defense if, in fact, they're going to have as many healthy, speedy, and formidable pass rushers as possible. So that right now is the area where I'm looking at the Patriots roster and saying, yeah, that could be an issue if things don't materialize the way they hope.
You know, one of the things that I always say is when you go to the Super Bowl and you lose, it's always tough to get back, climb up that mountain and get back to the top again and get back to the Super Bowl. What's going to make it different for New England this year to try to achieve that? And, oh, by the way, the schedule is a lot tougher than it was last year.
Yeah, you just hit the nail right on the head. They're going to have to go through a gauntlet this year rather than go through what a lot of people would describe as a very easy schedule last year. And look, you can't help the teams that you have to play. You're given the schedule by the league. You play the ball as it lies, and the Patriots did that. And let's face it, they took care of business against the teams they needed to beat last year. So it's not a situation where they were essentially just completely handed a ticket to Santa Clara and said, here you go, you're all set. You don't have to show up. They did do what they needed to do. But they also have a bullseye on their back this year. They're the hunted team right now. The Seattle Seahawks are the Super Bowl champions, but the New England Patriots are the AFC champions. So that comes with responsibility. That comes with the Kansas City Chiefs wanting to get a crack back at them. That comes with the Denver Broncos feeling like they didn't get a fair shake because their guy wasn't under center when they took on the Patriots in the AFC championship. You're going to have teams like the Baltimore Ravens. You're going to have teams, like the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're going to have teams like the Las Vegas Raiders that are knocking on their door and saying, hey, you know what? We believe that we have a shot. We believe we've got the team to knock you off of your pedestal and get back to the promised land. So the Patriots are going to have to be ready for that. Every week is going to be a big week for this team. There's going to be no weeks off, and there's going to be no cakewalks throughout this next schedule. So the Patriots have to come ready. Mike Vrabel and his staff have to do an impeccable job of preparing this team week after week after week because they will not have one where they can overlook an opponent.
Mike Boutte, writer for New England Patriots on SI with us here at RaiderNation Radio 920. Unnecessary roughness. We'll close out with this. We've gone through the strength. We've gone through the weakness. What would you say the Patriots' X factor for 2026 is?
Well, I think the X factor can be the slot receiving game for the New England Patriots. It's always a backup. It's always a crutch for a Josh McDaniels-led offense. I promised I wouldn't do it. For the OC's offense, that's exactly what the Patriots love to fall back on, and they've got some great options there this year. I mentioned Romeo Doubs earlier. I think he can be a weapon out of the slot. But the guy I'm looking at is Demario Douglas, and I know a lot of people have been waiting for Demario to take that next step, but this is an opportunity for him to succeed. He, in my opinion, is very good out of the slot, short yardage situations. He's at a disadvantage when it comes to a height differential. He's listed at 5'8" generously, but Douglas has been able to adapt to play well at the NFL level. That's a focal point for the type of offense New England likes to run. So if they can run some plays with Romeo, with Demario, and also a second-year player who I look to make another leap on top of that this year, and Efton Chisholm III, they've got options this year where the Patriots had guys like Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, Julian Edelman out of that slot that could make things happen and make things go. I think that could be the X factor for the New England Patriots this year. I look at bigger production from the slot, and I think it's going to help take some of the pressure off of the two tight end sets that they're going to want to run. Because Hunter Henry's not getting any younger, and Eli Raritan is going to be thrown and asked to do a lot as a rookie this year. I think the slot game could be big for New England if that offense is going to take off the way we all hope in Patriots fandom.
There you go. Week 5, October 11th. Let all the fine folks in Foxborough know that Raider Nation is going to be headed that way. Raiders at the Patriots, 10 a.m. Pacific time kickoff. That'll be Week 5 action. And, of course, got training camp preseason, all that good stuff to get to. But it'll be here, as you know, sooner rather than later. Before you know it, we'll be talking about some Week 5 action already more than a quarter of the way through the regular season. Great stuff as always. Mike, what are you working on, my man, that we should be able to look out for, maybe get to know the Patriots just a little bit more?
Positional previews all week long. We're counting down our top 25 Patriots heading into 2026. I'm going to have my world-famous 3-to-watch series that's going to be dropping over the course of the next few days, getting to know this New England Patriots team. So we'll have all of that, and all of my written work will be there for you on SI. And, of course, you can always catch me on the airwaves as well. I'm co-host of a triumvirate of hosts on the Patriots No Huddle podcast with my good friends Derek Havens and Steve Balistrieri. You can catch us with a training camp preview coming out probably the end of this week, early next week at the latest.
And you always got some big-ass words, man. I can appreciate that. So there you go. You make us smarter with the big word vocabulary that you have there. Mike, great stuff as always, brother. You know we appreciate you.
Absolutely. You make me a better analyst every time you have me on, Q. We go back a ways, and I always appreciate you, buddy. And I always appreciate Raider Nation for embracing me. It's not easy for Raider Nation to listen to a Pat's guy, but you guys have embraced me with nothing but positivity. So nothing but love for my brethren there in the silver and black.
I appreciate it, man. You know, it's nothing but love on our side as well. Like I said, I always do appreciate you and appreciate your input, man. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, bud.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mike Debate right there, writer for New England Patriots on SI, and covers the Patriots like a glove. Been doing it for a long time. Really do appreciate him. We go way back, as he mentioned, so appreciate him giving us a little strength, weakness, and X factor for that team moving forward. And I think the biggest thing for the Patriots are what I said to him about it just being so difficult once you go to the Super Bowl and you lose. It's just so hard to get back. I mean, it really is. As he mentioned, there's always going to be a target on your back. It's not like the Patriots are somebody and a team that the whole league embraces anyway. They want to kick them while they're down, and obviously they weren't down very long, right? Getting back to the Super Bowl, obviously there's a lot of stuff going on with the Patriots off the field. I ain't worried about that. That's for them to figure out. So all I care about is what kind of team the Raiders could be facing Week 5 when they travel to Foxborough to take on the Patriots. We close out hour number 2. We'll do that next, hearing from you at 702-365-9200. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
It's coming back, the appreciation of the running back, especially those that are pretty versatile, that can be involved in the running game and the passing game. You look at guys like, Bijan Robinson, Saquon, Jahmyr Gibbs, Ashton Genty's a young guy with the capabilities of being involved. And so when you look at that balance is really important, and the piece of the puzzle that they add, because you can't be one-dimensional if you want to win. Hopefully for guys, that are involved in decision-making, they can continue to, emphasize the importance of the running back.
You're listening to Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q. Brought to you by Meineke, doing car care right.
Former running back right there, Ronnie Brown, over at Summer League. Our guy Mike Dixon, Vegas Sports Today. He was Johnny on the spot and got a chance to catch up with him, was talking about the running back position. I know Mike Dixon also was part of the conversation that Brandy Flores had with Baron Davis. A matter of fact, we got a busy third hour of the show because we're definitely going to try to get that interview in as well. I thought Brandy did a hell of a job talking to Baron Davis, talking about the Summer League that's going on at Thomas & Mack. As a matter of fact, JT the Brick Show will come to you from the Thomas & Mack from Summer League coming up on tomorrow. I've been there multiple times so far this time around, and it's really a great event. I definitely encourage anyone that has tickets that we either gave them or just you want to go and check out the action. I mean, you get 8 games in one day on one ticket, and you really can't go wrong there. So go in, get out of the heat, have a good time, check out the young stars of tomorrow. You get to check them out today. So the Summer League is some really good action over at the Thomas & Mack and the Cox Pavilion. They have both gyms running at the same time, and like I said, just being over there, it is a lot of fun to see some of these guys that are going to be big names at some point. You know, they're not quite there yet. Even guys that were drafted very early in this past draft, they're still trying to get their feet wet when it comes to NBA action. But it is a lot of fun, and it's a great place to be, and it's continued to grow and grow and grow each and every year from when I was a little Q to now, right? I used to go there all the time with Mama Q. Used to go there and took my boys there to check out the action as well. We've got hour number 3 on the way. We got a lot to get to. We'll do it next, including hearing from you at 702-365-9200. It's Raider Nation Radio 920.
I'm not going to tell you that.
Offense, defense,
All of it. I mean, we won 3 games last year. We got to be super honest with where we're at, and we've got a lot of needs to address, and we've got a lot of capital to do it.
Accountable guys that obviously have produced on the field, coming from winning teams, guys that as that football is important to them. It's easy to say that, but when you talk to the people that have coached them, you've talked to their college teams, you talk to their teammates. What is this guy like when things get hard? Because there's going to be adversity. It's not going to be perfect. So you want guys that can handle things the right way when it gets tough.
It's Unnecessary Roughness. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right. Here's your boy Q.
Here we go, kicking off hour number 3 of the show. We come into the sounds of GM John Spytek, head coach Clint Kubiak, talking about free agency, talking about the draft, talking about players that are coming from winning teams and how you start to put the pieces together of this team. And we'll really start to see the pieces of this puzzle come together at the end of the month when training camp opens up. It is Unnecessary Roughness here on RaiderNation Radio 920. We threw the question out there at the top of the show. Is there any veteran player or players out there that you think the Raiders could land at a reasonable price to help with depth on either side of the ball? Not guys that are going to get in the way of the growth of someone else, but just could provide some depth, someone that can help out a little bit, maybe a specialty guy like a third and long, pin your ear back, try to get to the quarterback, try to help out, try to be a wingman for Max Crosby, or maybe a guy that can help try to extend some drives if they don't see what they need that they have in-house right now at the wide receiver position or any other position that you see across the team. So let us know your thoughts at 702-365-9200. We got a lot to get to in this hour. Coming up around 4:30, we're going to be doing football right. So some really good stuff that we heard on the Rich Eisen show on ESPN Radio. Got a conversation that Brandy Flores, our teammate on the Las Vegas Sports Network, did over at Summer League action with Baron Davis. Want you to hear from that. But also want you to hear from my guy Stuart Scott. And today is ESPYs Day. That's the sports award show. It's a fantastic award show. But it's also the day that me and my colleagues there at ESPN Radio and ESPN in general, support the V Foundation for Cancer Research. And I like to bring this to the table each and every year here on this show because I know that it's that no one is exempt from the big C word. And so everyone cares about cancer research. As much as we fight all the time amongst ourselves, the one thing that we're not going to fight about is how ugly and nasty that disease is and how many people are affected by it. And there's not one person that's listening to me right now that isn't affected somehow, some way by that ugly, nasty C word. And so the V Foundation for Cancer Research was founded in 93 by ESPN and Jim Valvano. Of course, he was a legendary basketball coach and ESPN commentator. And the beautiful thing about it is 100%, not 1%, but 100% of direct donations go directly to cancer research. The V Foundation's endowment covers administrative and fundraising costs, so your donation can fund the science. And to me, it's just one of those things that if you can help out, you help out. It's fantastic. And like I said, everyone knows someone that is affected somehow, some way. So we always encourage folks to go to v.org/donate to help support the V Foundation's game-changing cancer research. And like I said, most importantly, 100% of your donation goes directly to cancer research. And I was having conversations on ESPN Radio on game night last night, all up and down ESPN. They've been talking about it today. I'll do it again later on this evening, but it always gets me to reflect on one of the guys that was my inspiration, one of the guys that was my hero, the guy that I used to leave the TV on so I can hear all the time. Just if I fell asleep, that's okay. I'd wake up and he'd still be on, and that's my guy, Stuart Scott. A fantastic talent, even better person from everything that I've understood and learned from people that knew him personally. Born in July 19th, 1965, and passed away January 4th, 2015 at 49 years old. But before he passed away, he received the Arthur Ashe Courage Award, and his speech, iconic. And look, hey, if it gets a little dusty and a tear or two gets in your eye, don't have any shame, because as much as I know every word of this speech, it happens to me each and every year. But I think it's always good to reflect and remind what a day like today really means, and all the people that have been affected, and just kind of encouraging words from the late, great Stuart Scott.
Every day I am reminded that our life's journey is really about the people who touch us. When I first heard that I was going to be honored with this reward, the very first thing that I did was I was speechless, briefly. I've presented this award before. I've watched in awe as Kay Yao and Eric LeGrand and all these other great people grace this stage. And although intellectually I get it, I'm a public figure, I have a public job, I'm battling cancer, hopefully I'm inspiring, at my gut level, I really didn't think that I belonged with those great people. But I listened to what Jim Valvano said 21 years ago. The most poignant 7 words ever uttered in any speech anywhere. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. Those great people didn't. Coach Valvano didn't. So to be honored with this, I now have a responsibility to also not ever give up. I'm not special. I just listened to what the man said. I listened to all that he said, everything that he asked of us, and that's to build the V Foundation. And let me tell you, man, it works. I'm talking tangible benefits. You saw me in that clinical trial. Now, here's the thing about that. Coach Valvano's words 21 years ago, helping me and thousands of people like me right now, direct benefits. That's why all of this, why we're here tonight, that's why it's so important. I also realized something else recently. You heard me kind of allude to it in the piece. I said, I'm not losing. I'm still here. I'm fighting. I'm not losing. But I got to amend that. When you die, that does not mean that you lose to cancer. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live. So live, fight like hell. And when you get too tired to fight, then lay down and rest and let somebody else fight for you. That's also very, very important. I can't do this don't give up thing all by myself. I got thousands of people on Twitter and on the streets who encourage me. I got these amazingly wonderful people at ESPN. I got corporate executives, my bosses, this is true, who will text message me. And they'll say, hey, heard you had chemotherapy today. You want me to stop by on the way home from work and pick you up something to eat and bring it to you? Seriously? Who does that? Whose boss does that? My bosses do that. But even with all that, the fight is still much more difficult than I even realized. What you didn't see in the piece is what's gone on probably the last 10 days. I just got out of the hospital this past Friday. 7-day stay. Man, I crashed. I had liver complications. I had kidney failure. I had 4 surgeries in a span of 7 days. I had tubes and wires running in and out of every part of my body. And guys, when I say every part of my body, every part of my body. As of Sunday, I didn't even know if I'd make it here. I couldn't fight. But doctors and nurses could. The people that I love, my friends and family, they could fight. My girlfriend, who slept on a very uncomfortable hospital cot by my side every night, she could fight. The people that I love did last week what they always do. They visited, they talked to me, they listened to me, they sat silent sometimes. They loved me. And that's another one of the components of the V Foundation. This whole fight, this journey thing is not a solo venture. This is something that requires support. I called my big sister Susan a few days ago. Why? I needed to cry. It was that simple. And I know that I can call her. I can call my other sister Cynthia, my brother Stephen, my mom and dad, and I can just cry. And those things are very important. I have one more necessity. Yeah, it's really two. Two very vibrant, intelligent, beautiful young ladies. The best thing I have ever done, the best thing I will ever do, is be a dad to Taylor and Sydney. It's true. I can't ever give up because I can't leave my daughters. Yes, sometimes I embarrass them. Sometimes they think I'm a tyrant. That's a direct quote. There is an adjective that described tyrant too, but I'm not going to go there. But Taylor and Sydney, I love you guys more than I will ever be able to express. You two are my heartbeat. I am standing on this stage here tonight because of you. My oldest daughter, Taylor, I wanted her to be here, but college sophomore, summer school, second semester, starting this week. Baby girl, I love you, but you go do you. You go do that. My littlest angel is here, my 14-year-old. Sydney, come up here and give Dad a hug because I need one.
There it was right there, Stuart Scott at the ESPYs, and he passed away not too long after that. And I think it's usually, Ari, about, 3 minutes in, when you start all of a sudden moving around in your chair a little bit, you start moving your face a little bit, you're trying to, stop any emotions that may be on the way. Every single time I hear that, no matter the fact that I know every single word for the most part of what that man had to say. Like I said, he was that dude that I looked up to probably more than anyone in this journey that was, and just. That was a tough one, just to see him going through what he was going through. I love what he said about his bosses and how they would check in on him. And Ari, you could appreciate this. And it's not like that. Like he said, it's not like that. As all of us know, we all have jobs. We've all worked at certain places where some people really care and give you that family feel, and others just don't give a damn, right? You're either coming to work or you don't. But I always get the sense, knowing who I know in the building that we're in, and I've been in for the last 5 years, I get that sense that our building would be very, what can I do? How can I help you? Very family-oriented, which I really could appreciate about where we work.
Absolutely. And long before you got here, it was like that too, of course. I mean, but yeah, it's just been that way for forever, really. So definitely, and things like this kind of make you really appreciate it if you didn't already. You just think about, that kind of a situation. So
Exactly. So I just think it's really important to – hear that speech. I like to make sure I bring that to the table, once a year on this day, because, again, every one of us, no matter how much we could disagree with somebody or we can not, that's not my favorite person, this ain't my favorite person, we all are affected somehow, some way. There's no doubt about it, right? I'm affected, you're affected, we're all affected. You want to talk about all being in the same crew, running with the same folks? Yeah, we're all in the same bunch. There is not one single person that is not affected somehow, some way. And I, as you guys know, I do shows quite a bit with my guy Emmett Golden, and it's been now 2 years that his wife has been, trying to recover from, she discovered that she had, breast cancer, and so she has been coming back from that, and he's been very open and honest about it on the air, and he's been able to be a testimony to some others that may not, be willing to share their story at this stage of the game, or they're so down by their story. There's so many different elements that play into it, but I think that whenever we deal with certain circumstances, it is our responsibility to share our testimony to be able to help others out. And so he's been very open and honest, and I know every year at this time, it's to donate to the V Foundation was never ever a big deal, but a couple years ago after his wife was diagnosed, like he told me, he texted me, he was like, man, it just hits different today. And so every year now, the last couple years, he'll shoot me that text, just made my donation, and I'll hit that text, just hit mine, right? And then, like I said, she's not the only person that I know, but when it's that close to home and someone that you genuinely, really, truly care about, like Emmett's my brother. So that's something that we always make sure we don't overlook each and every year. And so, but that goes for everybody, man. Everyone, so many people are affected by that nasty, ugly disease that we all wish that we can get rid of. So just wanted to make sure to pass that along and not ever, ever forget. 702-365-9200. We want to hear from you next. It's RaiderNation Radio 920.
I get to stand next to Max, next to Vaughn, next to Cam, and they're giving me tips on, hey, but add this move. Hey, you need to try this a little bit. If you do this a little bit, that ups your sacks by 3 sacks. 3 sacks, I tell everybody the same thing. 3 sacks, 3 mil, that's a whole difference. You doing this, you doing that. That's all difference between Pro Bowl and All Pro. So, hearing them talk to me and telling me, hey, you got to be better in this aspect, that aspect, the third. So I'm going to listen to everything they say.
Right now, we're doing football right on Unnecessary Roughness. Brought to you by Meineke. Doing car care right.
Jared first right there talking about Max Crosby, the Sack Summit. That was part of Good Morning Football. Of course, the Sack Summit took place here in Las Vegas last weekend. It's Unnecessary Roughness, RaiderNation Radio 920. And, sometimes things just happen to fall into your lap. And sometimes you just happen to miss, and then all of a sudden you think of it a little bit later on. Just had a hell of a segment where we were, listening to Stuart Scott give his epic speech there at the ESPYs, and I think we could all agree, F cancer. And then immediately I realized, oh, man, we got Moonlight Plumbing. I should have, instead of F cancer, I should have flushed cancer. That would have been more ideal. That would have been perfect. That would have been a great way to, not only highlight what we're trying to, do and make sure that we, hear from Stuart Scott. But, man, that would have been so appropriate because, as I mentioned, everyone that we know somebody, I should say. Every one of us knows someone or some people that have been affected by that. Like I said, somehow, some way, we all do get affected. So, we'll get into doing football right in a hot minute, but we do want to hear from you at 702-365-9200 here on RaiderNation Radio 920. Let's go out to Oregon, talk to our guy, Charles. Charles, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Q and Ari, thanks for having me on. I just have to say I took the time to really listen. Again, I watched the documentary on Stuart Scott, and I love that guy as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what he said, what was so amazing about what he said, if you really listen to it, if people get a chance to listen to it again, is everything he said wasn't really about him. It was about everybody else. And it's just a great reminder. We get so upset about this, about the Raiders, this, that. What's most important in life, right?
Yep.
God, family, the people that you care about, right? My boss, and who was a good friend of mine, recently passed away of cancer, and I'm still processing it. She was only in her mid-40s, and we thought if anybody's going to beat it, she's like clean energy, just like you, high energy. If anybody's going to beat it, it's going to be her, and then she passed away. And I'm still processing that. And I'm a counselor. Yeah. And I know as a counselor, the best way to go through that grieving process is to honor that person. And she's always someone who always thought about everybody else, just like Stuart Scott. And so that's what I try to do, is do a great job for her every day to honor. I honor God every day of what I do in my work, but at the same time is to honor her. She'd want me to take care of the people that I see every day, and that's what I try to do. But thank you for sharing that. So, at the same time, I wanted to answer the question about, should the Raiders add somebody?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer, no. Because why? If you listen, you played Spytech earlier, and Spytech said, hey, we know who we are. And I said that when I called yesterday.
Yeah.
You got to know who we are. We are not a Von Miller away from winning the Super Bowl. All those people that want to add Von Miller. Remember Larry Brown? Remember all these people that I can list? Even though I was excited, I'll admit it, when we got Devontae. And then I realized, you know what? We weren't one player away from winning. You got to let the young people develop. If anybody, Keenan Allen, maybe I saw Cooper Kupp and what he did for JSN. And JSN said for the Seahawks how much that helped him. But the truth is, we don't have a JSN. We don't have that ultimate player. And so my point is let the young players develop. The only thing that I would add, if there was anyone that's going to help Fernando develop, think about that, yes. And then the other thing I think about is what Kirk Morrison said not long ago. He said, remember, and don't forget, Raider Nation, we are number 1 on the waiver wire.
Yeah.
So as we get into camp, watch who gets cut. If there's an offensive lineman that helps supplement this team or a receiver or something that in need, and they're good because there's going to be good players that are cut, then go grab them up because we're first on that waiver wire. Hey, everybody, go out there and honor someone today by showing love to other people. God bless. You guys have a great day.
Hey, great call, Charles. Definitely appreciate that. Thanks for sharing the story as well. And that's what I mean when I say that everyone is affected somehow, some way. What Charles just said is exactly right. And I 1,000% agree with you when you say that, Stewart was talking about everyone around him. He was. And I believe that that's why it's so emotional and the way that he's so he was able to word it and put the emotions behind it. And like you said, talk about the others that have helped him and others that he's learning from and others that have fought the good fight as well. So thanks so much for that call. Definitely appreciate you. And I think a lot of people are with you when it comes to should the Raiders add, some kind of veteran or so. Not really, right? As Paul Gutierrez, who joined us in the first hour, he said, not if it's going to slow down someone else. If it's going to get in the way of someone else that needs to go out there and have that opportunity to get on the grass and learn what they can do, there's no reason to do it because, as he said, they're not one player. They're not one Von Miller away. As you mentioned, the Raiders know who they are. David in San Leandro said, thank you, Q, for playing this every year. I'm 45. Stu was a rock star to people our age that love sports and old school ESPN. That's David in San Leandro. And then Houston said, man, why does it seem like onions are in the room every time I hear that Stuart Scott speech? There's no doubt. There's no doubt. Like I said earlier, man, it's about 3 minutes into this speech, and then all of a sudden you start feeling it. Those onions that you're talking about, those onions start coming around real quick, fast, in a hurry, right? Man, right when he says that, he had to call his parents to cry and call his big sister to cry and all of a sudden it's just like, okay, that's the point where the emotions kick in each and every time that I hear that speech. 702-365-9200. As I mentioned, I know that speech affects plenty of people, and of course, that ugly C word affects a lot of people as well. Let's go ahead and hear from our guy, Raider Mike. Raider Mike, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Dude, you sledgehammer 2 days in a row like that. The A's 9-game winning streak, and now that. To me, Stewart was my boy. We always liked the same people for some reason. And Valvano, same thing, man. I just got over crying. I'm composed now. It's been over 10 minutes, but that hits me hard. My mom, she beat cancer 3 times, and the 4th time wiped her out.
Ugh.
So, and they wanted me to put her in hospice. I'm like, no. My ex-wife was a nurse at the time. She's staying right here. And my little 5-year-old girl was the mini nurse, but it ate her up like that. 6 weeks, 110 down to 60.
Oof.
It was horrifying.
Yeah.
And, wow, sorry.
No, that's all right, man. It's all right. Emotions are okay. Emotions are okay, brother.
Stuart, that speech is so good. And Valvano the same way. So anyway, fellow Oregonian, he thinks and speaks like I do, Charles. So Charles was in charge for a minute.
Yeah.
But anyway, It's gone 18 years, Q. Yeah, my dad beat cancer first time, but that was recent. He's 83, Colonel Weig. And so it's in my family, is my point. And I get checked as much as I can. To answer the question, no. With Charles, no.
Okay.
Don't add anybody. Develop our boys, what we got right here, and watch that waiver wire. If there's a stud wide receiver that just for some reason just doesn't fit into a team no more, and we can get him on a sweetheart deal, bring him in. But I don't even think I want to do that, bro. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're kind of set. I think Spytek's been genius in this entire process. I've loved every move. You've heard me, what, we've known each other 6-7 years now. Usually I'm flipping the hell out. And I haven't flipped out much at all lately. So, anyway, I love the show, Q. Thanks for bringing that. 18 years. Anyway, I love the show, bro. Raiders. Peace.
Hey, man, appreciate the call. Respect the emotions for sure. And that's what I'm talking about right there. And, of course, it's not, something that, hey, I want to try to pull the emotions out of everybody, but how can you not? How can you not be emotional, And again, we all get an opportunity to reflect. We all get a chance to, think of our loved ones. And as Charles said, honor someone. Check in on somebody. Check in on your people. Because sometimes you don't know. I say it all the time. You never know what everybody's going through. And, like Mike said, it's running through the family. And his family ain't the only one. Trust and believe that, right? There's so many people that we find out all the time that are affected, again, by something that is we just can't run and hide from it like we would like to. It sucks. It's awful. And, that's why you see the All-Star game. You see everyone saying, I stand up for. And, I said this on the air last night on ESPN radio. I said, man, as everyone's standing up there and they have their signs and they've got a name or two on it, they can easily have 5 or 6 names and 5 or 6 signs, because, again, it's just what it is. It doesn't discriminate, right? It doesn't pick a side. Well, I'm just going to get these guys. I'm just going to get, the Myers family, or I'm just going to get nah, man. It don't discriminate. It comes after everybody. But thank you for the call, Mike. We do appreciate you, and definitely all thoughts are with you and the family at all times. This is definitely something that we can all agree on. 702-365-9200. Let's go ahead and get Money Mitch. I talked about him earlier in the show. Money Mitch, what's on your mind? Welcome to the show.
How's it going, Q?
Good, man. How are you?
Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Good. I didn't catch the whole thing with Mike. I hope family, hope health, prayers, and God be with. I didn't hear what situation, but it didn't sound too good. So all jokes aside, I know we love the battle, but, I hope everything turns out well and he can retire.
Yeah, no, he was reflecting on his mom and his family that has been affected by cancer after I played the Stuart Scott speech.
Oh, I see. But his mom's still around, so that's good.
She passed.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I lost my father to cancer when I was 22. That was 19. It'd be Friday's anniversary, July 17th. He was 51.
Yep. That's what we're talking about. I'm talking about how everyone's affected somehow, some way by that ugly C word.
Yeah, it's like they can have a way. They can, it's like the Seinfeld, and they can put a man on the moon, but it's like the medical doesn't want to find cures. Right? It's just they gotta make money, right? They gotta keep these hospitals filled. It's just sad. It's really billion-dollar business, right? And they can't find a cure.
Hopefully, sooner rather than later. Hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so. Another time. Not yours, because I'm older than you. All right, shorty. All right, doctors would just say a couple of things, okay? I'm gonna stick with my Joey Bosa, but I guess I wouldn't mind another lineman, even a. Well, get over here. I got my grandson. My other one, I couldn't put him to sleep. Q, and I got my big one here. Doesn't want to go to sleep.
Gotcha.
I can be. Hey, Kyrie, want to say anything to Q? Did you ask me? I had a good weekend. Ask me I had a good weekend. Come on, Kyle. You can say more than that.
Go Dodgers. Go.
Say Happy Father's Day. Belated.
Happy Father's Day.
That was quite a while back, but okay, we'll take that. Cool,
All right.
that'll work.
Maybe it's an early one.
There you go.
See,
there you go.
That All-Star game was so bad. Was James Wood there? This guy, I hope he becomes a Dodger. If the Nats they have some lineup, the Washington Nationals. This guy is 6'7". He leads off. I think he's been hitting home runs like there's no tomorrow. I think he's going to hit 50. Incredible play. But I know you have other calls and everything, and you don't have baseball yet because what they're doing in Oakland with the football team, the basketball, and now the baseball. You'll be having baseball soon before you know it. All right,
there you go.
Thanks for letting me indulge. Thanks for taking the call. God bless you.
Hey, appreciate the call. Thanks so much for the grandson chiming in as well. 702-365-9200. It's Raider Nation Radio 920.
Herbert gets the shotgun snap. He's looking left. He's sacked from behind by Crosby. Oh, man, did he get around Pipkins in a hurry. And he dropped him for a loss of 7 yards.
Now back to Unnecessary Roughness with your boy Q. Presented by Meineke, doing car care right.
And we're continuing to do football right here on Raider Nation Radio 920. You hear a Max Crosby sack. That was versus the Chargers, and that was one of his 10 sacks that he had in 2025. And obviously he's looking to have that season plus some coming up in 2026. And all Raider Nation really wants him to have that season and then some with the silver and black, and hope to see them continue to put this together and get that defense on track where it needs to go, now led by Robbie Leonard. It is Unnecessary Roughness here, Raider Nation Radio 920. And Ari came across this on yesterday, and I found it to be pretty intriguing on the Rich Eisen show on ESPN, where they were doing 4 downs on multiple teams, and they got to 4 downs, which is basically 4 questions or 4 statements that they have to say about each and every team. So when they got to the silver and black, this is what they were talking about. Check it out.
First down on the Las Vegas Raiders' upcoming season is, what will Ashton Genty's sophomore season look like?
Oh, TJ.
I have no idea what it's going to look like. Is it going to be an improvement? Last year, if you had him in fantasy, you're like, what a total flop. And then you look at his numbers, and you go high register.
Pretty decent.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're not talking about how his pre-snap stance is anymore, or whatever the hell was going on last year. Hopefully the offensive line will do better.
Yep.
And that's all predicated, I think, you're going to see how this is all linked together with second down. Go ahead and hit second down there, Mike, if you want to hit second down. Thank you so much. Is Clint Kubiak head coaching material? I know he's from a coaching family, okay? I get it. And I know where he's been, and I know what he did last year as the offensive coordinator for the now defending champion Seattle Seahawks. But now he's in charge of a program. Now he's got, look at the people there that he was standing with at his introductory press conference with the GM.
I know.
Howie Long.
Everybody.
Everybody's in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? Oh, where's Plunkett? Is he there too? I mean, listen, come on now. Gannon's there. Okay. Is he head coaching material or is he not? Is he ready for this moment or is he not? Because there's a ton of big-time decisions he's going to have to make. Mm-hmm. And that leads to third down here.
Third down.
And how long until Fernando Mendoza's QB1?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
That's it, right? Because Kirk Cousins is there. Brilliant signing. Brilliant. Because if Mendoza's not ready, he's the guy. And who's going to be better at maybe helping Mendoza get ready, even though he knows he's got a last chance saloon potentially here for the Vegas Raiders to show that he can still do this job. And if he's not going to be there because Mendoza is going to be pushed up the depth chart because he's a first overall pick and it's time, he's got to show somebody else that I'm still a quarterback worthy of your starting job. So it's just a fascinating listen, all the memes of them, being in Step Brothers gear is fun and dandy, but when push comes to shove and it's time to start winning football games or play football games, when do we see Fernando Mendoza? And that is a big-time quarterback room scenario for Clint Kubiak to negotiate. I didn't even mention Brock Bowers here. I think he's going to have a nice season, if not definitely a better season than last, hopefully a more healthy season.
Right.
Tyler Linderbaum being there is another way that you bring a young quarterback forward, is having a superb center.
And help that run game.
Correct. So all of that's kind of mixed together. And that brings up fourth down.
Fourth down.
This is the hottest question of them all, man. What's the deal with Max Crosby? Is there still a deal or no deal at all? And this is now about to be front and center here. Because if the rescinded trade that brought him back to Vegas still did not handle whatever everybody felt needed to be handled back at the deadline, back at the new league year. If that's still simmering or if that's still relevant, then is this guy available in the same way that Micah Parsons was last year? Now, it's not contract related. It's injury related. How healthy is he going to be for training camp? He shows up running around like a deer, then potentially it's still out there, unless it's not out there anymore at all. And that's about to be front and center.
There you go. That was Rich Eisen from the Rich Eisen Show. 4 downs on the Raiders. Genty year 2. What is that going to look like? I think that's a storyline that we've talked about quite a bit. Clint Kubiak, is he truly head coach material, or is he one of these guys that is a really good offensive coordinator or a good, position coach as opposed to a head coach? Mendoza, how long till he's ready? How long will it take till he gets in there? Another storyline that we talked about a lot. That was 3rd down. And then Max Crosby, are things good? Is he still available? That's 4th down. And to be honest, when you look at all 4 of those storylines that Rich Eisen rolled out, I feel like the 4th down one is actually the easier conversation about Max Crosby. And maybe I'm wrong. And you can obviously chime in and say whatever you want and let me know maybe I'm wrong. But I think that the 4th down is actually the easier conversation. I don't think that there's an issue with Max in the organization. I don't think that Max is sitting at home saying, and I can't speak for him. I'm only, this is, like I said, this is my gut feeling. That's all I can ever speak on. He has not said anything like that to me, so I don't know. I'm not going to put words in his mouth. It's just the sense that I get from what we have heard from him and the way that he continues to attack each and every day, the way that he does, what we saw him out at OTAs and mandatory minicamp. I don't think that he has any animosity towards the organization for anything that's gone on. I know that we've had, guys like Trey Wingo on and say, hey, is Max upset? I mean, the fact that they traded him and then they didn't, I think that was more mutual at that time. And now I think it's more mutual that he's with the organization. Now, as I've said many times, that's not going to stop the conversation from happening. There's no doubt that that's going to happen, even if Max comes back and starts the season and he's on fire. And he's, look, there's going to be teams that are going to want him because he's that stinking good. That's just part of the situation when you have a guy like that. And who knows where those conversations could lead. I'm not going to say, that there's no chance that he gets moved. I'm not saying any of that. But I don't think that there's any animosity between Max and the organization or the organization and Max. So I really feel like that on that one, 4th down is probably the easier conversation. And like I said, you could still have every team in the league still say, hey, we'd like to get Max Crosby, right? Still pick up the phone and call. That's you can't stop that regardless. Even if that no trade had never happened, you can't stop that conversation from happening. Mendoza, how long till he's ready? That 3rd down, that's the it'll reveal itself question, right? I mean, that's something that we talk about and debate every day, right? Regardless if it's us here on RaiderNation Radio 920 or if it's others out there in the media, there's always going to be a conversation about Fernando Mendoza, right? I mean, we were doing a bunch of top 5 rankings on ESPN Radio, and one of the big storylines was Fernando Mendoza, and when are we going to see him? And that's not from people that are just Raider focused, but he's the number 1 overall pick. He's the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. He just won a national championship, right? There's a lot of intrigue and a lot of questions around him, not from the point that he's a bad player at all, because I think everyone pretty much agrees that he should have a really good career based off what he's been able to do in the guy that he is. But everyone wants to see it. That's what it is, and especially when you add the Raiders to it, and the fact that they haven't had a franchise quarterback since they sat Derek Carr down, and can he be the guy? He just won a national championship with Indiana. No one ever looked at Indiana as a football school, so can he help Clint Kubiak and company get the Raiders back to where they need to be that team that consistently is in the playoffs and having an opportunity to hoist another Lombardi, right? I mean, you want to put a resume together. Started out at Cal, went to Indiana, won the Heisman, won a national championship, gets to the NFL, wins this award, that award, and the other, and all of a sudden he gets to hoist a Lombardi. I mean, you want to talk about a resume builder. That's a resume builder right there. So, the how long till Fernando Mendoza's ready, that's going to be the forever question until it's not, right? As Clint Kubiak says all the time, it'll reveal itself. And speaking of Clint Kubiak, is he head coach material? That's the soundbite that Ari played yesterday when John McClain joined the show. And, John let it be known, yeah, he's head coach material. Right now, obviously, I can't sit there and look into the crystal ball and say, oh, yeah, he's going to be, the next great head coach in the National Football League. But as far as he head coach material, absolutely. It's not like the Raiders just saw him and identified him and said, hey, we want him to be the head coach of the team, and there was no other team that was going after him. He was at the top of everyone's list who had a head coaching opening. Everyone wanted him. The Raiders were the ones that landed him. Now, he's going to have moments that are going to be probably really good. And he's probably going to have moments that he's going to want to have back, or he might second-guess himself. It happens to every coach, every single one of them. It's not a book that you can read on, coaching for dummies, how to become a great head coach in the National Football League. There's adversity that you're going to face. It's inevitable. And I think the best part of it is what Just Win Will said last week, where he said, how do you face and fight adversity when it hits? How do you keep the team together? How do you keep them focused? And really, honestly, what Kirk Morrison said on Monday. I mean, we're talking about how do you deal with adversity. How do you deal with success? That might be the harder pill to swallow than the adversity. It might be harder to deal with the success than it is with the loss. But I have no doubt in my mind that Clint Kubiak is ready for the moment. It's just, how will it play out? And there's a lot of factors that play into that. How healthy can the team be? How good is the quarterback play going to be, whether it's Kirk Cousins or Fernando Mendoza? Is Ashton Genty going to be able to be that guy? And that leads us to first down, right? Ashton Genty year 2. We all believe that a lot of the heavy lifting is going to go through him. It's going to be the Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty show, Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers show. Those are the two main alphas. And if it works out the way that I believe it can work out, and we won't know, I can't answer that question until we all see it. I can't sit here and forecast exactly what's going to happen. I wish I could. I wish I could be here on the show and be like, man, look, I already know. I know how this bad boy is going to play out. I know exactly what Ashton's going to do year 2. I know what Fernando's going to get in. I know what the Raiders' win-loss record is going to be. I know if it's a playoff push or not. Man, I would love to have that knowledge. And you would too, because I can't hold it anyway. If I knew, you'd know. Right? I can't keep a secret anyway. So that I would be the first to tell everybody if I knew the answers to it. Obviously we don't. I'm just being funny, but obviously we don't. But if it plays out the way that we believe it can, and all of a sudden Brock, Genty are the 1-2 punch when it comes to the the weapons, and they do play out the way that we believe that they can. And then Fernando Mendoza is that quarterback that we believe he could be. That could be a hell of a 1-2-3 punch, right? A nice 1-2-3 punch, right? Quarterback, tight end, running back. That could be something that they could really build on from some years to come. But, they do these 4 downs with every team. But I did find those to be pretty interesting, what Rich Eisen had to say about the silver and black. Ashton Genty, year number 2, that was first down. Clint Kubiak, as far as head coach material, is he that? Second down, he did mention Plunkett. No, Plunkett's not in the Hall of Fame. He should be. And Gannon's not in the Hall of Fame either, as we all know, but he was league MVP. But, that was Kubiak, coaching material, second down. Mendoza, how long till he's ready is third down. And Max Crosby, things okay. Is that conversation going to pop up again as fourth down? And, of course, that conversation is not going to go away anytime soon. But definitely wanted to make sure we pass that along. We did get a text from Mark in Jersey. Said, I'd like to add Debo as a role player. He still is very explosive and will work well in Kubiak's system. He could be a return man that can flip the field, be a threat to take it the distance, something we haven't had in a very long time. That's Mark in Jersey. I I don't know. I don't know why I'm so bullish on Deebo Samuel. It might be because of the way that the 49ers, who used him a lot, and he was a key to their offense and what they did, they were so in a hurry to get rid of him. Like, they didn't hesitate to get rid of him. It's not like they had to be, like convinced to get rid of him. Washington didn't give up, some king's ransom to get him, right? I mean, they were willing just to move on from him pretty quickly. And he really didn't do a whole lot in Washington. I just kind of feel like he's more at this stage of the game, and maybe I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, that's fine. Maybe he ends up latching on with the team, and he's a pretty big key contributor. But I feel like at this stage of the game, when it comes to Deebo Samuel, he's more of a name than he is a guy that has some really good game, a guy that's really going to help your team. Now, maybe I heard the morning tailgate today talking about the return game, and we all know that that's something that's near and dear to my heart because, to your point, Mark, they haven't had a guy that's been a real threat in the return game in so long, and they were talking about Malik Benson as the wide receiver and what he can do there, and all I keep thinking in my head was special teams. That's probably where he's going to butter his bread originally, and maybe that's how he makes an impact on this team. Maybe he is that guy that's able to turn into the punt returner and the kick returner and be that true threat. Because to your point, I understand why you're searching for someone to be that guy. I've been searching for someone to be that guy. I've been damn near begging for someone to be that guy, and just nobody has stepped up to be that threat, as you mentioned. And it drives me crazy to the fact that there's teams out there that have multiple kick return touchdowns or a guy that's a threat each and every week when he's back there receiving a punt or a kick, and the Raiders just don't have that guy. They haven't had that guy in so many years. I mean, so many years. It's wild. I mean, I bring it up all the time. Outside of the preseason, the names of the last two guys that took one to the house were Dwayne Harris and Jacoby Ford. Dwayne Harris took a punt return back, and Jacoby Ford took a kickoff return back. And that was so many moons ago, right? And so, man, I mean, I could go on this subject forever. And that's why, when we talked to Paul Gutierrez, and he said he has a piece coming up at the end of the week, and I definitely encourage you to check it out, Raiders.com. He's talking about special teams and the storylines in the special teams and who's going to be the guy to step up and be that kick returner or that punt returner, because they desperately need that guy. So I understand looking for him. I don't know if Deebo Samuel is the guy that you identify and say that's going to be the guy. Charles in Oregon, I think, agrees with me. He said, Deebo, come on, man. Why would we need Deebo to return kicks when you have Malik Benson and Trey Tucker? Raider Nation, for the love of all this, holy, stop adding these guys that aren't going to make a difference that are older, as Charles in Oregon. So, yeah, he clearly agrees with me as well. And look, maybe Malik Benson could be that guy. That it will reveal itself in training camp. I mean, I don't want to pencil him in and say he's going to be that guy until I see it with my own eyes. I know that he has the capability, but doing it in college and doing it in the NFL is a whole nother ball game. Trey Tucker, I always thought that he was going to be a guy that was going to be a kick return specialist, and it never really turned into that for him. He never really held down that role, and you would think with the speed that he has that he could, but it just has not happened. But appreciate all the feedback, calls, texts, really good stuff, and all our great guests. We'll be back tomorrow on RaiderNation Radio 920.
Doing football right on Unnecessary Roughness. Brought to you by Meineke. Doing car care right.